Chapter 552. The thin wooden stick touched the second red arrow. Then, Mo Tianji calmly said, "The second clan we contacted was the Li clan. Elder Xia, I think you know why the O clan contacted this clan." Xia Danxiong awkwardly coughed. His face was somewhat red as he said, "You already know. What else can I say?" Everyone looked at him curiously. "I don't know what this jade flower is worried about." Mo Tianji gently said, "Brother Xia, it would be better for you to explain yourself, so that we can understand the current situation better. And we can understand how threatening and hostile these clans are." Xia Danxiong's face turned red. He faintly recalled the past and angrily said, "I had a grudge with the Li clan when I was 17 years old. I had reached the marriageable age. Once, I accidentally went out and met the eldest daughter of the Li clan, Li Meng. This Li Meng's name is pleasant to hear. However, her appearance was somewhat unsightly. Well, she wasn't too ugly. I heard that she was injured. After Li Meng saw me, she unexpectedly took a fancy to me." Xia Danxiong's elegant and feminine face became angry. "After I returned, the Li clan came to propose marriage. But how could I agree to such a marriage? Even if I, Xia Danxiong, am not good looking. The future wife of the Xia clan's clan lord can't be a one-eyed person, right?" Ha ha ha. Ji Zhu Dongwu Lei and Luo Kewu swayed back and forth. Even Mo Tianji, who had always been calm and collected, was smiling. Ji Zhu laughed and said, "Brother Xia, perhaps she is a one-eyed person. But perhaps she has an inner charm." The laughter became even louder as these words came out. Xia Danxiong's face turned red. He spared no effort in cursing. "Fuck. That's all you know, Ji Zhu." The so-called inner seduction was cough cough cough. Xia Danxiong cursed. Then he continued, "So I flatly refused. But this Li Meng and her younger brother, Li Hu, took advantage of the fact that I was away. And they wanted to snatch the marriage. Ha 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 ha." Ji Zhu's hands and feet spasmed as he laughed. "Brother Xia's charm is boundless. Don't tell me that Li Hu did you do that?" The laughter almost overturned Mo Tianji's study room as these words came out. Xia Danxiong's complexion turned pale. He angrily said, "Ji Zhu, you bastard. Go on, ignore him." Ha. Luo Kewu laughed so hard that he spat out a mouthful of tea all over the place. He then urged Xia Danxiong to hurry up. Xia Danxiong looked at Ji Zhu with hatred in his eyes. Then he continued, "As a result, I killed both of them by accident and on purpose. Therefore we became enemies. It can be said that the Li clan and my Xia clan are absolutely irreconcilable." At this point, everyone stopped laughing. Clearly, they were all considering the seriousness of this matter. Indeed, if an ordinary person had died, there probably wouldn't be any deep hatred. However, he had killed a son and a daughter of the clan head. This was a deep-seated hatred that could not be resolved. I'm sure everyone understands that as long as the Li family makes a move, it will be a fight to the death. Mo Tianji smiled and concluded, "Whoever stands with the Xie clan, the Li clan will fight them to the death. If we don't make a move, both sides will be holding back. But once we make a move, there will be no more scruples. Either you die or I die." The archdukes nodded slowly. The steward of the Gu clan was sweating on his forehead. He was busy recording. The third target that the O clan contacted was the Tian clan. "Brother Dong, you're not unfamiliar with the Tian clan, right?" Mo Tianji looked at Dong Wu Lei. Dong Wu Lei's complexion sank. "Not unfamiliar." The Dong clan and the Tian clan had several generations of irreconcilable hatred. They would fight to the death whenever they met. In this life, the Dong clan had Dong Wushang. But the Tian clan had also produced a peerless genius, Tian Buhui. He was known as Heaven is Inferior. Even the heaven is inferior to him. One could well imagine the strength and arrogance of this person. There was no need to say anything if the Tian clan got involved in this muddy water. They would certainly fight to the death. Dong Wu Lei's complexion became extremely unsightly. The fourth target that the O clan contacted was the Zhao clan. Mo Tianji smiled as he looked at Luo Kewu, whose complexion had suddenly become unsightly. "Brother Luo, the Luo clan has been suppressing the Zhao clan for more than 200 years, if I remember correctly." Luo Kewu snorted. Mo Tianji smiled in a refined manner. Our Mo clan and the Zhao clan would have become allies if it weren't for the distance between us and the Luo clan. Luo Kewu's complexion became even more unsightly. The Luo clan and the Mo clan didn't have a harmonious relationship. They had been yelling and shouting every day for dozens of years. But things had improved recently. Of course, the O clan also contacted another clan, the Tu clan. Mo Tianji sighed. Gu Duxing beat Tu Qianhao beyond recognition. Moreover, he beat him in front of all the heroes of the world. This hatred isn't inferior to the hatred of killing one's father. The fingers of the steward of the Gu clan trembled, and a big stain appeared on the writing brush he was using to record. All of you deserve to be punished. Mo Tianji sighed as if he was very depressed. But the most unbearable thing is that our Mo clan didn't do anything. But that damned O clan contacted the Black Devil clan. Dong Wulei, Jizhu, Luo Kewu, and Xie Danxiong immediately laughed in schadenfreude. It's no wonder that you looked for us. It turns out that your Mo clan is also involved in this matter. However, they also felt relieved at the same time. Mo Tianji can't stay out of this matter since the Mo clan is also involved. Mo Tianji's planning is the biggest help. Mo Tianji had pulled these people together in a few words. Moreover, he had made his position prominent and independent. The Mo clan's strength had been greatly damaged, so they should have been begging others for help. However, they had become the target of others' pleas. Moreover, the O clan contacted the Meng clan. Mo Tianji forced a smile. Everyone's eyes shone brightly. Meng Luo's vivid spring dream divine technique was a thorn in everyone's heart. Everyone rubbed their palms for battle when they heard that the Meng clan was also participating in this alliance. We will face an unprecedentedly grim situation if the O clan's alliance is successful. Mo Tianji had done enough foreplay to raise the hearts of all the great dukes. Then, he threw out his main objective. If the O clan, the Tu clan, the Tian clan, the Meng clan, the Black Devil clan, the Zhao clan, the Li clan, all these clans join forces to deal with us alone. Mo Tianji looked deeply into Xie Danxiong's eyes. Even the powerful Xie clan will be defeated in one blow. There won't be the slightest bit of luck. Xie Danxiong's complexion suddenly became deathly pale. That's because the Xie clan was the closest to the O clan. Our clans will be eliminated from the three heavens if we give them the opportunity to attack us one by one. Mo Tianji's voice was cold and deep. His eyes looked at Dong Wulei, Luo Kewu, and Jizhu's faces. Everyone's complexion became heavy. Their eyes flickered, and a murderous intention condensed little by little. The atmosphere in the study room had suddenly become oppressive and heavy. Everyone knew that Mo Tianji's words wouldn't be just a rumor if this matter were to happen. How could a single clan resist the alliance of 7 great clans? Mo Tianji chuckled and said, I'm very unwilling, and I'm very unwilling. But the Black Devil clan has joined that camp. I'm very unwilling, and I'm very unwilling. But I have no choice but to admit that we're on the same boat now. Yes, you have enmity with them. Our Mo clan has no enmity with them, but we've been pulled in. What else do you want? Who wants to stay out of this? Who dares to stay out of this? Dong Wulei's eyes flickered. He slowly stood up and looked around. Then he said in a heavy voice, Brother Mo is right. This is indeed a big crisis. I'm afraid that we'll be destroyed if we don't work together. Dong Wulei's voice was heavy. He extended his big hand with his palm facing upwards, and said, My Dong clan will be the first to recognize the status of our group. Those who recognize my alliance, please put your hand on mine. Xie Danxiong put his hand on his palm without any hesitation. Then Luo Kewu also put his hand on his palm. The steward of the Gu clan hesitated for a moment, and said, I'm willing to represent the Gu clan to recognize the alliance. However, I need to go back and report the specific deployment plan of this matter to the clan lord. He also put his hand on his palm as he said this. Jizhu remained silent for a while. Then he meaningfully looked at Mo Tianji. Then he put his hand on his palm with a bang sound. Mo Tianji smiled. He stretched out his hands and gently held those hands that were clasped together. Then he said, Everyone can discuss the next step of the plan if that's the case. Mo Tianji's words had maximized the crisis of life and death. And he had finally moved the hearts of these aristocratic clans. He had firmly tied these scattered clans together. Moreover, it was the most solid kind. Everyone laughed out loud. Then they sat down one after another. The unfamiliarity and restraint between them had disappeared without a trace. I think I should have the right to speak about the next step of the plan and arrangement. Luo Kewu forced a smile and said, I've had a lot of dealings with Lord Mo Tianji in the past few years. To be honest, I'm very ashamed. I, Luo Kewu, have never been able to gain the upper hand no matter how much I've thought about it. I've almost been killed several times in Lord Mo's hands. I've almost been captured several times. Luo Kewu laughed at himself. Then he pointed at his own body. I won't hide it from everyone. Out of 10 scars on my body, 9 of them were inflicted by Mo Tianji. Everyone laughed out loud. Luo Kewu said, Brother Mo's reputation as the master of calculation and manipulation is well known throughout the world. I think that Lord Tianji will be the one in charge, if we want to form an alliance. That's right. My cousin is full of wicked ideas. I haven't been able to bask in his glory since I was a child. Jizhu mischievously smiled. Jizhu's mother was the wife of the clan lord of the Ji clan. Mo Tianji's aunt was bitterly in love with the clan lord of the Ji clan. She would rather marry him as a concubine. That was how she gave birth to Mo. Jizhu shouldn't have called Mo Tianji cousin. However, he and Mo were more like blood brothers. Therefore, Jizhu had followed his younger brother to recognize this cousin. Xie Danxiong and Dong Wulei looked at each other. They didn't have any objection. Mo Tianji smiled and said, This proposal is inappropriate. Chapter 553. Everyone was startled. Why is it inappropriate? Is there anyone here who is better at scheming than you? I can only be your military advisor. Strategizing can determine victory in Jianghu. I can analyze the enemy's schemes and calmly execute them. This is what I can do. It is my duty to do so. Mo Tianji smiled and said, As for the decision-maker and battle leader, it is not my turn. It is someone else. He paused and said, Every one of us is more than qualified to be a leader. Moreover, we all have the ability to control the overall situation. However, we are not as good as one person. Therefore, before that person arrives, I can only come up with ideas for everyone. Then we can harass them and tire them out. This is fine. That person? Who? Everyone asked together. This is strange. There is someone in this world that even Mo Tianji feels inferior to? What kind of immortal is that? That person once turned the entire lower 3 heavens upside down with his own strength and cultivation, as a martial master. He once led Iron Cloud Nation, which was on the verge of destruction. However, he defeated Diwu Qingro, who was unparalleled in intelligence and military strength. This person came to lower 3 heavens and stirred up the storm. He almost single-handedly changed the situation of lower 3 heavens. King of Hell Chu. Mo Tianji had not finished speaking, but everyone had already called out this name. It is that person. Mo Tianji sighed slightly. King of Hell Chu's intelligence is not enough to make me admire him. However, his calmness is beyond my reach. He sighed softly and said, We can command a large army, but it's not difficult for King of Hell Chu to do this. We have to remain calm in the face of danger, and look for a way out from a hopeless situation. Our train of thought is clear, but we can't do it. Calm. Luo Kewu could not help but laugh. Brother Mo, when did King of Hell Chu show his calmness? How come I have never heard of it? Mo Tianji smiled. If you were in King of Hell Chu's time in Iron Cloud, would you be able to do what he did? No. Luo Kewu honestly admitted that Iron Cloud's reversal was indeed a miracle, turning defeat into victory bit by bit under an absolute disadvantage. If you don't keep your cool, can you do it? Mo Tianji asked in a carefree manner. Then he chuckled. Mo Tianji asked myself honestly. I wouldn't be able to do this if I were in King of Hell Chu's shoes. As expected, King of Hell Chu's calmness is indeed extraordinary. Xie Danxiong recalled Chu Yang's performance in the Xie clan. He couldn't help but blush with shame. He thought in his heart, Motherfucker. He single-handedly challenged my entire clan, and didn't get drunk. I'm afraid no one in this world is worthy of the word calm, if I don't remain calm. Alright. Dong Wulei nodded straightforwardly. Luo Kewu also nodded. They had seen Chu Yang. Moreover, their brothers had followed Chu Yang. Even she had never been able to convince her younger brother that much. Also, we're still missing a few adventurers. Gu Duxing and Dong Wushang are well-deserved. Mo Tianji smiled confidently and said, both sides will suffer at best if we fight recklessly with our current strength. Even if we win, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. And we'll lose the qualifications to contend for hegemony in the three heavens. But the situation will be very different once Gu Duxing, Dong Wushang, and the others return. Relying on the five of them? Dong Wulei snorted disdainfully. King of Helchu was obviously a character. But Mo Tianji had put them on such a high pedestal. It seemed a bit excessive. Yes, relying on the five of them. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. He slightly squinted his eyes and said, Brother Dong, the five of them were able to kill 5 emperor-level experts. And they also killed 30 king-level experts at the same time. Would the 5 of us be able to do it if we were in their place? Who knows what kind of crafty scheme they used? Dong Wulei muttered. Yes, they must have used a crafty scheme. But, Mo Tianji heavily said, I can't think of such a crafty scheme. Such a crafty scheme is a kind of strength in the upper three heavens. Even an emperor-level expert has died. So, you and I will certainly die if we meet them. Scheming and wisdom are the most brilliant martial strength. Mo Tianji insipidly said. Everyone pondered in silence. Xie Danxiong roused his spirit. He carefully sorted out the situation of both sides in his mind. He felt that something was wrong. So he said, Brother Mo, this matter doesn't seem to be as simple as it seems on the surface. The O clan has joined forces with so many people. So they shouldn't be targeting us, right? Brother Xie is very wise. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. He paced 2 steps. Then he slowly pondered and said, Du Xiao owed a huge gambling debt after the battle at Mt Dingjun. I calculated from that time. Everyone looked at Xie Danxiong with a strange look in their eyes. Xie Danxiong's face turned red. Du Xiao wasn't the only one who owed a huge gambling debt. The first thing I would think of if I were the O clan's clan lord was to pay off my gambling debt after I heard about this god of wealth. Then, I would think of killing him to seize his wealth. Mo Tianji put himself in the position of the O clan's clan lord as he slowly spoke. Everyone listened attentively. But, I suddenly realized that King of Helchu's financial resources had reached a sensational level after his trip to the Xie clan. Therefore, I couldn't help but feel excited. How much of a boost would it be for the O clan if we could kill King of Helchu in secret? Moreover, King of Helchu is only a king-level expert. I heard that he doesn't have an emperor-level expert in his team, but my O clan has more than one emperor-level expert. Wouldn't we be able to make a fortune in secret if we could do it in secret? Mo Tianji continued to analyze. Moreover, he could enter the Xie clan without any precautions. So, why can't he enter the O clan without any precautions? Wouldn't I have the final say as long as he enters the O clan? Xie Danxiong and the others secretly nodded. Mo Tianji's analysis of O Chengwu's mentality was absolutely correct. Things should have started to deviate from that time. Therefore, I began to arrange the deployment after I arrived. But I found that the other side was on guard. So, I wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. Therefore, I wanted to eliminate them in one fell swoop. So I needed information and experts to follow them. Therefore, I have to send someone who is very confident in following them. Many people would have gone. And they wouldn't have met if they were discovered. They would have gone their separate ways. And my O clan wouldn't have gotten anything. Therefore, I had to send at least one emperor-level expert, and at most 2 emperor-level experts to follow them. Mo Tianji spoke until here. He then smiled and continued. Killing 5 emperor-level experts at once with the cultivation of a king-level expert wouldn't be possible even if they used crafty tricks. Therefore, they needed to be dealt with separately. And this tracking emperor-level expert should have been the first to be killed by Chu Yang and the others. Or the first 2. There couldn't have been more than 3. After all, It wouldn't have been called tracking if there were more than 3. Chu Yang would have prostrated himself in admiration if he had been here. Motianji's calculations had been correct so far, whether it was the mentality or the process. Then I received the news. So a large group of people immediately set out. They must have used a thunderous method to eliminate all future troubles in one fell swoop. However, I realized that I had provoked a big trouble when I found out that the experts I had sent had been wiped out. O clan had lost so many experts. Moreover, they were facing the retaliation of these big clans. So they were in a precarious situation. We had to unite with other forces if we wanted to protect ourselves under such circumstances. Therefore, I targeted the opponents of the Gu clan, the Luo clan, the Dong clan, and the Ji clan. Moreover, King of Hell Chu had just formed an alliance with the Xie clan. So the Xie clan was also an enemy. So I contacted the Li clan. Moreover, the people of the Black Devil clan had always been mercenary, so they could be used. The Meng clan was powerless to protect itself. So the Meng clan would have been eager to accept if I had thrown out an olive branch. And I would have achieved my goal of protecting the clan, as long as these clans accepted my offer and reached a consensus. Mo Tianji paused as he spoke till here. Xie Dan Xiong, Dong Wu Shang, and Luo Kewu discussed in a low voice. Ji Zhu also changed his lazy posture. His eyes emitted a sharp divine light as he listened with rapt attention. But my mentality suddenly changed when I reached this point. Mo Tianji's voice suddenly became heavy. I suddenly realized that my strength would have skyrocketed after I'd united with these clans. Moreover, the O clan is so weak right now that it would have been in danger of being annexed even if it was in the alliance. Therefore, I would have stirred up a dispute and launched an attack on the Gu clan, the Xie clan, the Dong clan, and the other clans. That's because this force has reached the condition of dominating the 3 heavens. Our O clan would have taken advantage of the situation if any of these clans got exterminated, and we would have been able to restore our strength. Moreover, we would have become even stronger. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. Mo Tianji paused as he spoke till here. He pondered for a while and said, "This should be the true mentality of the O clan's clan lord." He frowned and resolutely said, "It shouldn't be wrong." It must be said that Mo Tianji's words had drilled into O Chengwu's stomach. In fact, he had clearly seen through O Chengwu's internal organs. Xie Dan Xiong and Dong Wu Lei frowned and pondered deeply. Ji Zhu habitually crossed his legs and scratched his feet. Then he lazily said, "This shouldn't be false." First he was greedy. Then he regretted it. Then he became afraid. Then he joined forces to increase his strength. Then he became ambitious. This is very normal. What Tianji said shouldn't be wrong. Everyone nodded in succession. They felt that this was very reasonable. They were about to praise him when they smelled an indescribable stench. Even a weasel would have come after smelling this stench. They turned their heads to look, and immediately became angry. Ji Zhu had taken off his shoes, and was scratching his feet. He even put his feet to his nose and smelled it. These people were clean people. So they almost vomited. "Fuck. You bastard. Quickly put on your shoes. Get out." There was a loud roar. Then, someone kicked Ji Zhu out with a loud bang. He came in after a long while with his head and face covered in dirt. Mo Tianji stopped laughing and said, "However, this alone isn't enough to cause chaos in the world. Therefore, the Lian clan and the others must have still got some tricks up their sleeves. The next trick is the real fatal one." "What trick?" everyone asked. They had already prostrated themselves in admiration of Mo Tianji. Chapter 554. The O clan wants to take advantage of this opportunity to rise. Their first concern is the Ao clan. Everyone knows that the Ao clan is the #1 clan in the 3 heavens. Mo Tianji insipidly said, "The Ao clan is a colossus. No one would dare to say that they would rise and replace the Ao clan if they don't make a move. Therefore, the Ao clan must be part of the O clan's plan." Mo Tianji's eyes flickered. He was thinking in his heart, how would I drag the Ao clan into this mess if I were a member of the O clan's alliance? Then there's the dark bamboo. Dong Wulei raised his eyebrows. The dark bamboo? They can only create coincidences to take advantage of it. The people of the dark bamboo don't care about the rise and fall of the big clans of the three heavens. Moreover, Jun Shizhu has always been unreasonable, so they won't dare to take advantage of the dark bamboo. Motianji shook his head and said, "These two worlds can't be mentioned in the same breath. The most important thing is the Ao clan." The Ao clan. Everyone looked pensive. The Ao clan is a 1,000-year-old clan. It dominates the first place. The younger generation of the clan is full of outstanding talents. The Ao clan is full of talents in our generation. Only the core of the new generation is Ao Yin. But the other dozens of younger brothers of the Ao clan can't be underestimated either. Motianji pondered for a moment, and then said, Ao Yin is the leader of the Ao clan at present. This is to pave the way for Ao Yin to take over the position of the clan lord of the Ao clan. Therefore, the Ao clan's alliance can only start from Ao Yin if they want to drag the Ao clan into this mess. Motianji's train of thought became smoother as he spoke. But Ao Yin is extremely intelligent. He's not inferior to me in terms of wisdom and schemes. And he's not inferior to Gu Duxing and Dong Wushang in terms of martial prowess. Therefore, Ao Yin certainly wouldn't join their camp if the Ao clan's alliance were to brazenly invite him. Therefore, there's only one way for the Ao clan to drag the Ao clan into this mess. Motianji's voice slowly became heavy. Assassinate Ao Yin? The other people felt their scalps go numb. Their bodies became cold. Yes, the Ao clan will fly into a rage if Ao Yin dies. Whoever kills Ao Yin will incur the bloody revenge of the Ao clan. Motianji pondered and said, although this is a risk, it's the most effective way to throw the three heavens into chaos. Everyone became silent. Brother Xie, you have to be careful. You will be in grave danger if something happens to Ao Yin. Motianji turned towards Xie Danxiong and said in a serious manner, why me? Xie Danxiong was stunned. I don't have any unique weapons. The Dong clan is too obvious. Gu clan's Duxing isn't here. The Luo clan doesn't have a unique weapon. As for the Ji clan, GMO isn't here. Jiju, this fellow. Let's not talk about asking him to kill Ao Xianyun. Even if Ao Xianyun offered his neck to him, this fellow probably wouldn't even bother to kill him. Motianji faintly smiled. So they can only frame the Ao clan if they want to drag them down. If they want to frame someone else, they can only choose Xie Danxiong. Qianghua. Once Ao Xianyun dies, brother Xie, it will be your doing. Du Shao, and you have been friends for many years. So he knows your methods like the back of his hand. So, it would be easy for him to kill Ao Yin and shift the blame to you if he were to use the Ao clan's poison technique. And if the Ao clan were to attack in rage because of this, we would be completely passive. So it would basically be equivalent to a great defeat. Motianji said indifferently. Xie Danxiong was shocked. Everyone carefully thought about it. They had thought that it was unimaginable at first. But the more they thought about it, the more they felt that this idea was very likely. In fact, it was the only way out for the Ao clan's alliance. So what should we do now? Xie Danxiong was really anxious. This was a big disaster that could easily destroy a clan. I have already sent a letter to the Ao clan. It can be considered as getting acquainted with them first. Motianji's complexion was heavy as he said, I have also sent a letter to the dark bamboo to prepare for a rainy day. The second step is to make use of the Meng clan. The biggest mistake that the Ao clan has made in this matter is that they have contacted the Meng clan. Motianji insipidly said, the Meng clan's evil technique has already violated the great taboo of Jianghu. Therefore, we must seize this mistake. We must issue a statement to the entire Jianghu. We must denounce the Meng clan's evil technique. We must exaggerate the dangers of the evil technique to the greatest extent. Pay attention to this. We must not implicate the other clans while denouncing the Meng clan. First, we must shake the entire Jianghu. Motianji sinisterly said, the Meng clan's evil technique has been exposed a few days ago, but the backlash isn't very big, so it can't satisfy us. Well, how do we start? Luo Kewu asked. Do you still need me to teach you this? Motianji snorted and said, we must sacrifice a few people in this matter. And we must sacrifice a few small clans. I will arrange the next steps. You all listen carefully. Mo Tianji suddenly sat up straight. His eyes were shining as he looked at the people present. First, we must cover our faces and attack. We must use poison or sleeping incense. First, we must exterminate the small clans with young daughters. Then we must plunder their property. This matter must be done in secret. Mo Tianji's first step had left everyone startled. Second, we must collect a large number of those wandering and begging girls. This matter must also be done secretly. Mo Tianji insipidly said, "These two matters are not difficult. I believe that you can accomplish them." Everyone's body shook. Third, one of you must immediately rush to the scene after this matter has happened. Then, you must spread the news from different directions that this matter may be the work of the dark bamboo. Dark bamboo? Why is it the dark bamboo? Xie Danqiong was puzzled. Let me finish. Then we must continue to investigate. We must find some suspicious points. These families are very rich. Moreover, they have young daughters in their families. Then, we must combine this matter with the disappearance of the young girls and the gathering of the wandering and begging girls in the market. We must use clever means to make people raise doubts and point them towards the Meng clan. Meng Luo needs young girls to practice martial arts. So, we must first arouse the anger of the people of Jianghu. We must quietly wait for some righteous people to come forward and beg our clans to uphold justice. Then we will reluctantly agree. Do you understand? Wonderful. All the dukes laughed and clapped their hands. In this way, those scattered forces in Jianghu will gather to us spontaneously. We don't even need to spend a little bit of effort. Those who beg us will go around looking for help themselves. Brother Tianji's plan is really amazing. Yes. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. We must take the initiative to attack. We must take the initiative to gather experts. And this will alert the people. Moreover, the leadership will be in our hands. So, no one will dare to refuse. Because, who would dare to refuse to do this since they are begging us to do this? Therefore, this will prevent some people from being jealous, dissatisfied, and fighting for power. This is the best plan. Of course, we must act as if we are reluctant to do this. We must arrange a few people to stir up the atmosphere. And we must be repeatedly begged by them. Then we must reluctantly agree. This will make the people who beg us to shed tears of gratitude. This will be a driving force for us to recruit them into our ranks in the future. Fourth, we must launch an investigation after we are elected. And the result of this investigation must be an unexpected discovery. The Meng clan has formed an alliance with the O clan, the Tu clan, the Li clan, the Zhao clan, the Black Devil clan, the Tian clan, and so on. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. He emphasized the words unexpected discovery. From this we can infer that the O clan was the one who poisoned the exterminated clans. Remember, you must make this announcement sudden, thunderous, earth-shattering. Earth-shattering. That kind of effect. Moreover, you must leave too many wild and fanciful thoughts for the people of Jianghu to associate. But there is no harm in leading them to the worst possible association. Why would they form an alliance? Could it be that they want to publicize their evil techniques to dominate the world? Do they want to poison them for 3 days? Mo Tianji sinisterly smiled. It would be equivalent to everyone in the 3 heavens being poisoned if this is the case. And everyone would be in danger in the 3 heavens. We won't need to do anything at that time. They will automatically gather from all directions and gather under our banner. These things must be done secretly. They must be done flawlessly. They must appear very unexpected and unbelievable. But this is how things are set in stone. It would be perfect if every step could be speculated by others and caused a sensation. Then, we wouldn't have to keep asking questions. And we would be able to speculate this terrifying result. Therefore, step by step, we would take the initiative to investigate righteously. Then, we would be passively elected. Then we would discover this so-called terrifying truth. And our reputation would become even more popular. Moreover, we would stand on the moral high ground step by step. We would represent righteousness at that time. Mo Tianji mischievously smiled. And those clans would represent evil. Justice will eradicate evil. and it will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. It will be an irresistible trend. It will be the will of the heavens and the will of the people. There is no obvious righteousness or evil in the three heavens. But it can't be denied that people will feel happy if they think that they have done a good deed. Moreover, they will eventually suffer if these evils aren't eradicated. Naturally, they will flock together. When the time comes, the entire Jianghu will be in an uproar. And they will suppress those clans. Mo Tianji gently smiled and said, and our clans will be able to obtain the greatest benefits. From absorbing, dividing sentimental, heartfelt, caring and enticing. There will always be too many experts of Jianghu who will join us. When this is over, our clans will be able to truly rise. And those clans will fall forever. This is their opportunity. But isn't it our greatest opportunity as well? If we can make good use of this opportunity to wipe out all our enemies in one fell swoop, we will be able to strengthen ourselves several times over. Make use of the enemy's ambition to achieve our own hegemony. Mo Tianji gently raised his head. His black hair scattered in front of his forehead. His pair of clear eyes looked at everyone present. He casually said, wouldn't that be great? First update. Just 3,000 words. I woke up at 4 in the morning to write until now. It's extremely sad. I'm going home soon. I'll write when I come back at night. Chapter 555. By the time Mo Tianji finished speaking, the entire study room was silent. It was so quiet that even the sound of a needle dropping to the ground could be heard clearly. Dong Wu Lei, Luo Kewu, Ji Zhu, Xie Danqiong, and the others looked at Mo Tianji as if they were looking at a deity. They felt a chill in their hearts. They only felt a chill rising from the bottom of their hearts to the top of their heads in an instant. Too vicious. Too ruthless. Too insidious. Too cold sweat dripped down from Luo Kewu's head. He couldn't stop wiping it off. Motherfucker. That was really close. I've been fighting with Mo Tianji for so many years, and I haven't been played to death yet. I'm really lucky. If this plan had been used on me, the Luo clan would have been destroyed long ago. If they want to frame someone else, we might as well be one step ahead of them. Mo Tianji said. This way, as long as we are ahead of them, even if Xie Yin is assassinated, the Ao clan won't immediately believe that Xie Danqiong did it. As long as there's a buffer, we can make it in time. Wonderful. The other dukes were sweating. They raised their thumbs at the same time. Brilliant plan. Since that's the case, everyone should take action. Mo Tianji smiled in a very gentle and refined manner as he said, it should be the time for the general attack by the time King of Hell Chu returns. Just in time. Good. After the storm is stirred up, I'm sure everyone won't be soft-hearted about the properties of the clans. I don't need to remind you of this. Mo Tianji smiled. His expression suddenly turned cold. However, I don't want there to be any unfair distribution among us. If there is, I'm sure everyone won't be happy. If there's an internal conflict because of the distribution, it's not impossible. But if there's an internal conflict, it'll be easy for the other party to collapse. Mo Tianji said word by word. I'd like to remind everyone that this isn't just about the spoils of war. It's about our survival. Yes, we must pay attention to this. This way, if anyone dares to take the profits of other clans, we'll attack them together. The other dukes nodded repeatedly and vigorously. They admired Mo Tianji more and more in their hearts. Mo Tianji had already drawn up a plan in just a few sentences. He had set a direction, and had set a plan for implementation. He had even eliminated the path of retreat, and any possible future troubles. Now that the plan had been decided, the dukes left the Mo clan, as if they were on fire. All of them whipped their horses, and went off to make arrangements. Everyone was talented, so none of them were sloppy. This was especially true for Xie Danqiong, who bore the brunt of the attack. His heart was burning with impatience. Mo Tianji watched these people leave like the wind. Then, he stood alone in front of the Mo clan's gate. He smiled and said, Chu Yang, you've cured my younger sister. Moreover, you've recommended her to become a disciple of a supreme martial artist. I, Mo Tianji, am sincerely grateful. Perhaps I can't repay you with equal value. However, This is the beginning of my repayment to you. It's beneficial to you, it's beneficial to me, and it's also beneficial to everyone. Isn't that a happy ending? Even if there were some sacrifices, they had no choice. Since ancient times, the victors are kings and the losers are bandits. Innocent people bleed for thousands of miles. What else can be done in this world if everything is done for the innocent? Mo Tianji's white robe fluttered in the wind. His expression was indifferent as he looked at the white clouds floating in the sky. He muttered, Di Wuqingro, I didn't get to fight with you in the lower three heavens. But I'm looking forward to having a battle of wits with you in the upper three heavens. If such a day really comes, I, Mo Tianji, will die in peace. After all, I've created a battle of the pinnacle for this world. A battle of wits that hasn't declined since the ancient times. I believe that as long as the two of us fight, it will become a legend. He smiled and turned around. Then he slowly walked in. This time, the Mo clan won't be able to rush into the upper three heavens. However, there will always be opportunities. Moreover, there will be many. His tall figure disappeared behind the gate. Mo Tianji's plan had caused the entire Jianghu to enter into an atmosphere of a storm. He was like a small stone that had been thrown into a calm lake. However, he was able to cause ripples on the surface of the lake. A storm was coming. A storm was coming. A storm was coming. The O clan and the other alliances were also having a discussion, while Mo Tianji was making these plans. They had taken action much earlier than Mo Tianji. However, they were still a step behind him. After all, they had taken the initiative to ask the other parties to join them. However, Mo Tianji had tied everyone together with the threat of life and death. The O clan had never expected that they would be able to sit together and have a discussion with the other great clans at this time. This alliance is for self-protection, and it's for hegemony. O Chengwu placed his hands on the table. Then he solemnly said, Everyone must understand that our situation is worrying. The rise of the Gu clan, Dong clan, Xie clan, Luo clan, and Mo clan is unstoppable. And we're standing on the opposite side of them. Geniuses are constantly emerging from those clans. Clan lords, the situation is hanging by a thread. These words had caused the clan lords to ponder. Gu Duxing had appeared out of nowhere recently. His sharpness had shocked the heavens. Dong Wushang had been domineering and awe-inspiring. He had swept through the upper three heavens. Even Luo Kadi and GMO had suddenly risen. And this had already aroused their vigilance. However, the news that these youngsters could kill emperor-level experts had come out of O Chengwu's mouth at this moment. And this had increased everyone's fear. Everyone should know that Gu Duxing, Dong Wushang, Luo Kadi, and GMO are sworn brothers. This shows that they have already communicated with each other. And their leader is King of Helchu. He has single-handedly overturned the entire lower three heavens with his unparalleled wisdom. And there's also the master of manipulation and calculation, Mo Tianji, in their camp. Now, Xie Danxiong has also joined the ranks of the Xie clan. The strength of the Xie clan is also extraordinary. O Chengwu added fuel to the fire. Everyone, we can only wait helplessly for death if we wait until their wings are fully grown. But there's no retreat once the chaos of the Jianghu arises. The clan lord of the Li clan, Li Ju, frowned and pondered. He slowly said, We can still maintain the balance now. But we'll either rise directly or perish completely once the balance is broken. We won't even have the opportunity to linger at death's door. There's no retreat. The one who came from the Tian clan was a young man. His eyebrows were as thick as ink, but his eyes were as thin as knives. Occasionally he would sweep his gaze, and there would be a surge of disdainful murderous aura. He slowly said, I've long wanted to experience what kind of hero that Dong Wushang who swept through the three heavens is. Elder Bu Hui, your wish will certainly come true. I believe that this fierce battle between dragons and tigers will certainly shock the world. The clan lord of the Zhao clan was a stout man. He smiled and flattered. The strength of the Tian clan was far greater than that of the Zhao clan. Moreover, the two clans were not far from each other. The Zhao clan had always looked up to the Tian clan. Tian Bu Hui snorted and said lightly, Dong Wushang is willing to recognize others as his leader. He has already lost his pride. Such a person doesn't have the qualifications to be called a dragon or a tiger with me. The person who came from the Tu clan was Tu Qianhao. He narrowed his eyes and said viciously, "That's right. That Gu Du Xing is also the same. He's the first successor of an aristocratic clan in the upper three heavens. But he actually recognized an ant from the lower three heavens as his leader. It's simply infuriating. It's a disgrace to be on the same level as such a person. It's hard to get rid of this burden in my heart if I don't kill him." Everyone remained silent. Some people thought in their hearts, "You've already lost the qualifications to be on the same level as him, since you've suffered a crushing defeat at Mt Dingjun. So what disgrace do you have to speak of?" However, these words obviously couldn't be spoken out loud. However, the words of these two radical representatives of the two big clans had promoted this alliance. Meng Luo of the Meng clan had been sitting quietly on one side. He slowly said at this time, "That's right. Our hearts won't be at ease if we don't get rid of these clans." There was only one black-clothed and masked youth among them. He was seated in the middle. He said in a non-committal manner, "But how do we proceed with this matter? We must come up with a plan if we want to subvert or protect ourselves. We can't let them perish just by talking empty words and acting ruthlessly." This youth was the Black Devil of this generation of the Black Devil clan. No one knew his surname or his name. They also didn't know his appearance. However, he had offended Tian Buhui, Meng Luo, and Tu Qianhao at the same time when he had spoken those words. The three of them glared at him. The Black Devil young master suddenly raised his head. His eyes were like the dark night, as they emitted a demonic radiance. "Don't be angry. I'll make all of you convinced once this matter is over." Even Du Xiao coldly snorted this time. Chenggu hurriedly smoothed things over and started to discuss the follow-up matters. If Chu Yang were here, he would definitely be surprised to see these big clans gathered together. In the next 3 days, 5 of the 12 influential figures had gathered here. Furthermore, she was his enemy. Black Devil, Dark Bamboo, Lone Guest, Poison Spirit, Heavenly Secret, Li Xiongtu, Black Saber, Qianhao, Xie Gong, Dream Luo, Viburnum Flower, Tian Rue, Black Devil, Poison Spirit, Qianhao, Meng Luo, and Tian Buru were already here. On Chu Yang's side, there was also Lone Guest, Tianji, Black Saber, and Xianghua. In addition, GMO was able to subdue the enemy. They were evenly matched. But this confrontation would definitely make Chu Yang sigh. The 12 equally famous people in his previous life were destined not to live under the same starry sky in this life. There must be someone stepping on the bones of others to get to the top. The Ao clan dominates the first place. What's the use of us moving if the Ao clan doesn't move? Wouldn't we die in vain if the Ao clan decides to help the other side? The clan lord of the Zhao clan, Zhao Wuji, raised a question that everyone was concerned about. "This is the question that I'm going to discuss with everyone." Chenggu mischievously smiled and said, "It's actually very easy to make the Ao clan go crazy." "Ao Xieyan?" The Black Devil young master raised his eyebrows. The black radiance in his eyes suddenly burst forth like black lightning. "Yes, it's Ao Xieyan," Du Xiao indifferently said. "I'm sure that I can shift the blame to Xie Dan Xiong if Ao Xieyan dies suddenly." The eyes of Tian Buhui, Tu Qianhao Black Devil, and Meng Luo lit up at the same time. Ao Xieyan had firmly occupied the first place among the young experts of the three heavens for a long time. Everyone was proud and arrogant. So, how could they be willing to be suppressed by Ao Xieyan for a long time? Wouldn't everyone be able to climb to the top if they could overthrow Ao Xieyan? This plan is extremely risky, but we'll be able to secure victory if it succeeds. Du Zhao's sharp eyes swept over everyone's face. Everyone held their breath. "I need everyone to cooperate like this," Du Xiao slowly explained. Everyone's eyes brightened. Such a seamless and poisonous scheme is simply invulnerable. Their confidence increased a little bit. "This plan is called Killing Yin," Du Xiao said word by word. "Today, I went home to visit the grave. After that, I came back to drink with my father. Then, I drank while reminiscing about my grandfather's life. Unknowingly, both father and son got drunk. And they even cried, which made my mother laugh at me for a long time. The update is a little late. Brothers and sisters, please forgive me. Today's recommendation votes have slipped by 2,000 compared to yesterday's. I wonder what will happen tomorrow. Chapter 556. Kill Yun. Everyone frowned in silence after Du Xiao had finished speaking, and they started to ponder in silence. Although everyone's brows were tightly knitted, their eyes were shining brightly. The plan of killing Yun had aroused everyone's interest. It had also aroused everyone's ambition. The Ao clan had been dominating the three heavens for thousands of years. It would undoubtedly be a heaven-sent opportunity for all the clans present here, if they could start with Ao Xie Yin, and provoke the Ao clan to mobilize the Jianghu. Perhaps, the Ao clan would be able to fight with them, and both sides would suffer. Wouldn't we have the opportunity to replace them if that were the case? However, the most important thing in this matter isn't to kill Ao Xie Yin. Rather, it's to keep it a secret between us. Our clans will have a meteoric rise if we succeed in this matter. But we will be annihilated overnight if this matter is exposed. Tu Qianhao sighed and said these words. He was clearly sighing. He was reminding everyone. However, an ominous glint was flickering in his eyes as he looked at everyone. It was clear that everyone would gang up and attack anyone who leaked the information. Everyone remained silent. This matter is indeed no trivial matter. Du Xiao smiled and said, however, we might as well make a blood oath about this matter, so that we can gain everyone's trust. Moreover, we can make a blood oath as proof. Even if someone tells the secret to the Ao clan, they won't be able to protect themselves if this matter is exposed. Impudent. Are you the one who said this? Chengwu pretended to be displeased as he reprimanded. Zhao Wuji chuckled and said, Clan Lord O, you don't need to be angry. I feel that Duko's words are very reasonable. Yes. Duko, please continue. Du Xiao raised his spirits and said, you must make a poison oath if you want to restrain this secret from being leaked. You must make an oath in the name of your ancestors and future generations. You must make an oath in the name of your ancestors and future generations. Your ancestors will never be able to rest in peace if you leak this secret. You will fall into hell forever. Everyone became silent as soon as these words came out. This kind of oath was extremely vicious. Who would dare to make a joke about chopping off 8 generations of ancestors and future generations, even if they were unpardonably wicked and disrespectful to ghosts and gods? After a moment of silence, the Black Devil young master slowly raised his head. He swept his blade-like gaze across everyone and said in a deep voice, if you don't do anything wrong, why should you be afraid of a blood oath? Don't tell me you don't dare. There was already a thick murderous intent brewing in his voice. Tu Qianhao and Tian Buhui simultaneously swept their gazes over. Good. That's it. Zhao Wuji was the first to respond. Let's do it this way then. Tian Buhui's words were the final word. Immediately, everyone made an oath with their blood. They made an oath in front of the heavens and earth. They even used their blood essence as ink to write the oath of alliance and signed their names. Seeing their names appear on the white paper, everyone had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. But one thing was clear. After today, even if he wanted to withdraw, it would be absolutely impossible. If he succeeded, he would reach the pinnacle. If he failed, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. All right. Chengwu saw that everyone had made an oath, and had written the oath with their blood. He felt happy and relaxed in his heart. He then said, this matter shouldn't be delayed. Let's start the operation. Ao Xie Yun is still hunting for the blood essence of spirit beasts in the northern wilderness. We can easily deploy our forces. How can we rob and kill him on his way back? Du Xiao insipidly said, there's one thing that I need to remind everyone. Du Xiao pondered for a moment. Then he said, Ao Xie Yun has at least 3 or 4 emperor-level experts protecting him. Moreover, he must be protected by the people of the Ao clan. I hope that everyone won't overlook this point. You must remember to measure the strength of both sides before you make a move. It would be better not to make a move if you don't have the confidence to do so. We can take turns to fight. Tian Buhui faintly smiled. He casually said, moreover, the young lord of the Black Devil clan is an expert in assassination. So, I presume that nothing will go wrong. His voice sounded a little strange. The Black Devil young master coldly snorted. His voice suddenly became very gloomy. Tian Buhui. I will fight you to the death after I kill Aoxia Yin. Tian Buhui laughed wildly. That's right. Let's take down the country first. Then we'll fight to the death to decide who will own the country. Tu Qianhao mischievously sneered. Let's see who will own the beautiful country in the future. Everyone remained silent. A long time passed before they started to discuss the details of this operation. Everyone knew that this was a very important matter. They would be consigned to eternal damnation if they were careless. Everyone racked their brains and came up with all sorts of sinister schemes. The final decision was made after 2 hours. That's it. Everyone prepare separately. We must kill Aoxia Yin once he steps out of the northern wilderness. He will be returning to the Ao clan for more than 5,000 kilometers. The next 7 or 8 days passed. But a reign of terror suddenly appeared in the third day. The Zhonglan battlefront had attracted everyone's attention, but no one cared about it anymore. All the forces of the big clans had been recalled from the Zhonglan battlefront. Invisible falcons had even flown to the northern wilderness. They had only one message: urgent matter, return quickly. In the span of a single night, 3 small clans had been annihilated. This had caused an uproar in the third day. After all, no one knew who these 3 small clans had offended. They had repeatedly said that this kind of thing was very common in the third day. The 3 small clans that had been exterminated weren't good people either. They had dug up old scores and had done many evil deeds. Therefore, some people applauded and some people clapped. But everyone was just talking about it and nothing more. However, 3 days later, 3 more of these small clans were massacred without a sound. 3 small clans had been massacred in succession and had immediately attracted attention. Then some observant people had done some research and had shockingly discovered that these clans were scattered. But they all had one common characteristic. Each clan had a 13 or 14-year-old daughter. Moreover, her aptitude wasn't good. Moreover, the entire clan had been exterminated. All the men had died an unnatural death, and the women had gone missing. Especially, those young girls hadn't been found. Then, the number of young female beggars in the entire third day had also decreased in batches. Moreover, this matter had been done in an extremely secretive manner. One wouldn't have been able to detect it if they hadn't observed carefully. The observant people of the third day had opened their eyes wide. But this time, there had been no movement even after 10 days. It was inevitable that some people would slack off. But just half a month later, the heavens had suddenly shocked. In one night, 7 small clans had disappeared. The entire manor had been set ablaze. Then, the young female beggars on the streets of a certain district had all disappeared with a swoosh, as if they had been cut with a knife. All these things had been done in secret. But everyone could feel that an undercurrent was surging violently. A storm was brewing in the entire Jianghu. Then some observant people had analyzed and shockingly discovered that most of the clans that had suffered calamity were around the Dong, Luo, Mo, Ji Gu and Xie clans. Although they were all very far away, but if one were to analyze carefully, they would be able to see it. At the same time, these few clans had also started their investigations. But this investigation was also somewhat small and careless. It was as if they were facing an imminent disaster. Another night, another clan had disappeared in another direction, and a large number of young girls in a certain district had disappeared. The third day had finally become chaotic. It was boiling. It was as if a large piece of lime had been thrown into a tranquil lake. Slowly, the entire lake had started to boil. An inexplicable sense of crisis had shrouded everyone's heart. The Luo clan was the first to make a move. The clan's warriors had rushed out like a tide. They had dispersed and disappeared without a trace. But the smart people who had been watching from the sidelines knew that the Luo clan had finally been unable to endure their anger and had started their investigations. Then, the Gu clan, the Dong clan, and the Ji clan had also started to make their moves. But the Mo clan was still watching from the sidelines. They did not show any abnormalities. But the observant people knew that the new clan lord of the Mo clan, Mo Tianji, would not silently take a beating. Perhaps, He had already started his operations in the dark. The idle members of the Jianghu quietly watched the actions of the various clans. As the days passed, the expressions of the various clans became more and more unsightly. They were indirectly telling everyone one thing. The enemy was very scary, and the investigation was fruitless. Therefore, some people who rejoiced in the misfortune of the clans had appeared. Look, are the clans very awesome? Can't they just suffer in silence? But some insightful people were secretly worried. These clans have the ability to find out nothing. Doesn't this mean that the seriousness of this matter has reached its peak? Then some experts had died in the taverns that night, and some of them had disappeared without a trace. People had gone missing for several nights in a row. Moreover, no sound of fighting had been heard. Some people had woken up to find that the people next to them had mysteriously died or gone missing. There was no trace of fighting at the scene. This was not the only place where such a thing had happened. Similar news had come from all over the place. An inexplicable panic had shrouded everyone's heart. Everyone had finally realized, this matter is not so simple. Looking at this situation, it seems that someone wants to unify Jianghu. Doesn't this mean that we are safe today? But we will become the target sooner or later. The panic spread very quickly. In just a few days, half of Jianghu was already boiling over. Today the clan lord of the Mo clan, Mo Tianji, went out with a calm face. Some people noticed that the number of bodyguards around Mo Tianji had increased by 4 times. What does this mean? The other clans were also doing the same thing. Everyone was silent. They would not say anything. They would not comment on this matter. But the more they did not say anything, the more secretive they were. And this made people more nervous. And the more nervous they were, the more afraid they were. Finally, someone could not hold it in anymore. Chapter 557. Mo Tianji immediately realized that he had miscalculated one thing after he had carried out his plan. And that was the current indifference of human nature. People were too indifferent to the deaths of people and the extermination of their clans. They didn't care as long as they weren't the ones who had died. In fact, many people were jumping up and down to watch the fun. They were taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Mo Tianji had collected information about 40 to 50 small clans that met the requirements. He had eliminated 3 of the most notorious clans in his first operation. Mo Tianji's original plan had been to eliminate these 3 clans, and it should have caused a reaction. However, it was an indifference that was beyond his expectations. Mo Tianji immediately realized his mistake. So he ordered the extermination of 3 more clans. Simultaneously, the operation of collecting young female beggars was carried out simultaneously, and this finally set off some waves. However, it was far from meeting his expectations. So Mo Tianji ordered the extermination of 7 small clans in one fell swoop, and the operation of collecting young female beggars was carried out in full swing. Then, Mo Tianji saw that Jianghu had begun to boil over a few days later. So he immediately exterminated another clan. And he added a ladle of oil to this raging fire. Moreover, he eliminated those extremely indifferent people one by one. The minimum number of people dispatched for these operations was revered martial artists. Emperor-level experts were leading the teams, and there were several king-level experts. The scene that Mo Tianji had anticipated finally appeared. He went out on this day, and was blocked in a restaurant. Clan Lord Mo, this old man has something to ask. May I ask if Clan Lord Mo can listen to this old man? The speaker was an old man with white hair and beard. This old man's name was Mo Ruoshui. His surname was Mo, but he wasn't from the Mo clan. He was an old man. However, he was a king-level expert. Moreover, he was a lone expert within the Mo clan's territory. He had always been a lone wolf. He had always obeyed the Mo clan's jurisdiction. However, he had never completely surrendered. He was a free man who drifted away from the rules. Mo Tianji's target was this kind of person. Old Mo, there's no harm in saying what you want. Mo Tianji stood up and smiled. His face was calm and collected, but he forced himself to smile. And this made people feel that the situation was serious. May I ask Clan Lord Mo, what's Clan Lord Mo's opinion on the extermination of clans? Everyone is very puzzled. Can Clan Lord Mo point us in the right direction? Mo Ruoshui first thanked Mo Tianji. Then, he impatiently raised a question. This, Mo Tianji, furrowed his brows imperceptibly. Then he recovered his radiant smile and said indifferently, "This kind of thing, isn't it very common in the three heavens? It shouldn't be a big deal. Elder Mo, there's no need to rush. Let's all disperse." The more he said this, the more the crowd didn't believe him. Not only did they not disperse, they stood still and refused to leave. Clan head Mo, don't underestimate this matter. I'm afraid this matter is extraordinary. Mo Ruoshui stroked his white beard and said, "The Mo clan's clan lord naturally has a plan in mind. So, this old man doesn't dare to ask too much. But I'm being nosy. What's the result of the clan's investigation?" Mo Tianji's face darkened, and he said indifferently, "Elder Mo doesn't need to worry about this matter. You're getting on in years, so it's better for you to have some leisure time." These words were not polite at all, but everyone present was shocked. Mo Tianji's expression seems to be as if someone has poked his sore spot. Does it seem as if he's flying into a rage out of humiliation? Doesn't this mean that he doesn't have any good methods to deal with this evil person who's secretly attacking us? But we'll slowly run out of luck if these big clans don't care about this matter. How can we not be anxious? Mo Ruoshui didn't get angry. He said earnestly, "This old man has a few humble opinions." Ha! Mo Tianji looked at him without any change in his expression and said, "What's Elder Mo's opinion?" This old man went to the scene of the extermination of several clans in the vicinity in the last few days to take a look. Then, this old man found that blood was flowing everywhere, and corpses were piled up like mountains. The murderer's methods were too horrible to look at. The scene was messy, but this old man found something. He smiled somewhat proudly as he said this. Then, he took out a tightly wrapped green jade brick from his bosom. He opened it layer by layer, and everyone found that there was a corner on it. It was purple-black in color. Mo Ruoshui pointed at this purple-black area and said, "The murderer did it very cleanly. But this brick is obviously poisoned blood. Only someone who has just been poisoned, injured, or vomited can have such a bloodstain. Moreover, it can only appear intensely poisonous if it's sprayed on green jade or white jade. This kind of poison can't be detected after someone dies from the poison." Mo Ruoshui stepped forward and softly said, "If this old man's eyes aren't blurred, this should be the poison of the poison spirit." The poison of the poison spirit? Mo Tianji couldn't help but exclaim. Then he lowered his voice and warned in a low and serious voice, "Elder Mo, you can't casually say these words." Mo Ruoshui became somewhat depressed. "You're telling me not to casually say these words? Didn't you see that I've already lowered my voice to speak to you alone? But you're so startled that everyone heard it. And you're giving me a warning instead? What's the use of that?" Mo Tianji grabbed that green jade brick and turned it over and over to look at it. The more he looked at it, the uglier his complexion became. He brought it to his nose and sniffed it. Then, his complexion became extremely gloomy. Everyone had clearly heard his scream a moment ago, so there was complete silence. Poison of the poison spirit? O-Clan? Did the O-Clan do it? Why? Mo Ruoshui's complexion became awkward. He suddenly felt that he couldn't advance or retreat. He stared blankly for a moment. Then his complexion became resolute. He threw caution to the wind and said, "Clan Lord Mo, there's one more thing. I don't know if Clan Lord Mo has discovered this. These 10 destroyed clans used to have a daughter, who was known as a genius. She was 14 or 15 years old. Moreover, many young girls have gone missing during this period of time." Mo Ruoshui clenched his teeth and said, "Moreover, many experts have mysteriously disappeared in this." Mo Tianji wrinkled his brows and pondered. He shook his head after a long while. "I know what you're talking about. But this is unimaginable. How can they have such big courage? They're overestimating their capabilities." Mo Ruoshui heavily said, "It's better to be safe than sorry." Mo Tianji hesitated and didn't speak. His complexion was somewhat conflicted. It seemed that he couldn't make up his mind. "Clan Lord Mo, Only a big clan like yours has the power to resist and save us now. We won't have a way to survive if you. Emo Ruoshue's words were very pitiful. 2 of his old friends had gone missing one after another in a few days. Moreover, one of them had been killed. This had filled his heart with a sense of crisis. This matter, we'll discuss it again. I'll think about it carefully. I'll take a look at the situation. After all, this isn't a trivial matter. Emo Tianji comforted him. Old Emo, you don't need to worry about groundless things. You're highly respected, and your martial strength is outstanding. They may not necessarily dare to lay their hands on you. Emo Ruoshue opened his eyes wide. Clan Lord Mou, why do you still need to consider? I've made it so clear. What are you still thinking about? Emo Tianji stood up and said with a smile. Old Emo, you don't need to worry. Well, that's it. I'll go back first. Besides, those 2 clans won't be able to stir up any big storm. It's all right. He swaggered away after he was done speaking. Emo Ruoshue stood there in a daze. Everyone in the surroundings swarmed over. Old Emo, what did you say just now? I didn't understand. Old Emo, please explain. The poison of the poison spirit, is it the O clan? And the matter of the little girl. What's the connection? Emo Ruoshue's face was haggard. He heaved a long sigh and said, It's the Meng clan. Everyone should know about the Meng clan's vivid spring dream divine technique. The Meng clan and the O clan have joined hands to do this, if this old man's guess isn't wrong. Jianghu is going to be chaotic. Everyone, I wish you all the best. Emo Ruoshue heaved a long sigh. His eyes were full of unwillingness. This old man wanted the Emo clan to come forward. So the scattered people of Jianghu, like us, would be able to protect ourselves. But it seems that the clan Lord Emo still can't make up his mind. Sigh. Everyone started to discuss spiritedly. Yes, such a super clan is the safest place right now. But Emo Tianji clearly doesn't want to come forward. So what can be done about it? Everyone sighed and dispersed. The next morning, the news spread out. 7 people had silently died in the inn at night. And Emo Ruoshue had suddenly and inexplicably encountered an enemy attack the previous night. He had risked his life to rush out. But he was also covered with cuts and bruises. In fact, he had almost lost his life. Suddenly, a dark cloud covered the sky. Everyone felt insecure. So, almost no one dared to speak loudly. Then, another news spread out. The O clan and the Ming clan had joined hands. Moreover, several other big clans wanted to dominate Jianghu. Many people gathered around Emo Ruoshue after they received this news. Emo Ruoshue pondered for a long while. Then, he waved his hand. Carry me to the Emo clan's courtyard. This old man will kill himself if the clan Lord Emo doesn't do anything. Moreover, this is a major event in Jianghu. The Emo clan will be destroyed overnight if they succeed. So, I don't believe that the clan Lord Emo can remain calm. This group of people immediately put on a show in Emo Tianji's courtyard. Is this true? Emo Tianji fiercely stood up. He had an excessively shocked look on his face. Then he hurriedly paced back and forth. His complexion was exceptionally ugly. He then waved his hand and ordered, Investigate. I want accurate information. It didn't take long for the accurate information to arrive in front of Emo Tianji. Emo Tianji let out a long sigh. It's a pity that Jianghu is in a state of disunity. The people's hearts aren't united. Otherwise, sigh. The powerless sigh made the people of Jianghu lower their heads. They felt ashamed in their hearts. Why should the Emo clan shoulder the burden of everyone's problems? Then these people started to move. More and more people rushed to the Emo clan from within a radius of several hundred kilometers. The same situation was playing out in various places at the same time. The people of Jianghu had been scared out of their wits. They had pestered the big clans and had cried out in pain. But they had been left with extreme helplessness. Then they had reluctantly made a decision. All the clans would join forces to investigate. This investigation immediately uncovered a shocking conspiracy. O clan, Ming clan, Tu clan, Zhao clan, and Li clan wanted to eliminate dissidents and dominate Jianghu. The Jianghu was in an uproar. This news was like a gust of wind, and it stirred up a pool of spring water for 3 days. Chapter 558. Chu Yang had been trying hard to compress his strength during this period of time. He had advanced too quickly some time ago, and the aftereffects had appeared. He had never reached the height of a king-level expert in his previous life. Therefore, Chu Yang had crazily increased his strength. He had not only increased it for himself, but also for his brothers. Sword Spirit had desperately suppressed it, and Chu Yang had desperately improved it, until he had broken through to the 5th grade of king-level expert. Chu Yang finally understood why Sword Spirit had suppressed it. The 5th grade of king-level expert was like a huge fermenting gas. It had blown up his self-confidence like a pig's urine bubble. Self-confidence had exceeded a certain limit. It was no longer self-confidence but arrogance. This kind of self-confidence seemed to occur naturally after surpassing this level. It was like a heart demon that was impossible to guard against. Chu Yang felt that there was no one else besides Meng Chao Ran who could rely on his own strength to pass this level peacefully. Especially when Chu Yang found that he still felt that he was the best in the world when he thought of the great master-level expert's might. People would scold you for being arrogant if you were overly confident in peacetime. But being overly confident in the 3 heavens was akin to courting death. Therefore, Chu Yang had been crazily enriching himself during this period of time. He had been crazily consolidating himself, and had been tempering all the skills that he had mastered before. He had been constantly using some basic movements to fight crazily. He had been further absorbing and squeezing. He had not only been forcing himself, but had also been suppressing Rui Butong and Tan Tan at the same time. He had also summoned Gu Du Xing and Dong Wushang back, and squeezed them as well. Suppression. Chu Yang knew that if this kind of arrogant self-confidence really went overboard and dominated his character, then, no matter if it was him or Gu Duxing, both would be finished. This is the period of frustration. The younger brothers of big clans will send people who are slightly stronger than them after they reach the 5th grade of king-level expert, and they will ruthlessly defeat them. If the first time doesn't work, they will do it twice. If the second time doesn't work, they will do it thrice, or even 10 times. They will do it until this arrogance is completely eliminated. Sword Spirit said. The reason why everyone in the 3 heavens is so manic has a lot to do with the 5th grade of king-level expert. That's because not many people here know about this. And there are even fewer people who know how to avoid or correct it. This level is called the collapse level. Because it only collapses. One's self-confidence collapses. And it collapses. Then one's self-confidence collapses. Only now did Chu Yang deeply understand. Collapse stage. It was indeed the collapse stage. During this period of time, Chu Yang and his brothers had been fighting hand-to-hand, except for the occasional fight in the wild. They abandoned their weapons and fought with pure physical strength. Dong Wushang, Gu Du Xing, Tan Tan, Rui Butong, and even Chu Yang himself were covered in bruises every day. Every day, he would fall asleep in pain. Every day, he would be in extreme pain, and gradually erase this bit of arrogance from his heart. In the end, he was completely proficient. It was completely round and transparent. From a sharp stone, it had turned into a piece of beautiful jade that was beginning to take shape. It was about to blossom with dazzling colors. During this period of time, their cultivations remained in the same place, not moving at all. However, everyone seemed to feel that they were completely different from before. Their calm and reserved state of mind announced that they had passed the collapse stage. At this time, 3 months had passed. Then, Chu Yang took the 4 brand new brothers and went to look for Luo Kudi and GMO, Dong Wushang, Gu Du Xing, and the others were gobsmacked when they met. Is this still the slippery Luo Kudi? Was this the same lazy GMO, who was always out of tune from day to night? Luo Kudi's face was cold and solemn. His body was as straight as a sword. There was a cold and bloodthirsty look in his eyes. He stood there like a sharp sword stained with blood. He was exuding a chilling, murderous aura. 5th grade king-level expert. Jimo's eyes were somewhat dull. However, the imposing aura on his body was extremely fierce. He was like a general who had led an army to the battlefield, and his entire army had been annihilated. He was the only one left to face millions of enemy soldiers. However, He was still hot-blooded enough to fight to the death. Unyielding, he stood there like this. However, his thin body was like a deep abyss and a high mountain. One man could hold the pass against 10,000 men. 5th grade king level expert. However, these two were 5th grade king level experts. And they were different from Chu Yang and the others. They didn't need to pass the collapse stage, because they were the pursuers. They had always felt that their hearts weren't as good as others. So they were desperately trying to catch up. So, where would they find the time to be arrogant? Moreover, these two wouldn't have the opportunity to be arrogant in front of these abnormal people in their entire lives. I've seen you, Tan Tan suddenly exclaimed in pleasant surprise. He pointed at Luo Kadi. He helped me in the past. This guy is very interesting. He's more to my liking. So it's you. Luo Kadi also smiled. That cold and stern aura suddenly disappeared with this smile. Then, Luo Kadi regained his former self. He winked and asked, "How was it? Did you get young lady Xia?" Tan Tan heaved a long sigh. "I got her heart. But I haven't gotten her yet. You're so useless." Luo Kadi looked at him with disdain. "I'll teach you a trick. Do you want it?" "What?" Tan Tan's eyes lit up. "Let's talk about it later." Luo Kadi spat out his saliva in disappointment. "Who cares if her family doesn't agree? Let's bulge her belly first. Don't agree? Fuck. Why won't they agree? When that time comes, humph humph. You want your daughter to marry me quickly. But I'll have to think about it." "Good plan." Tan Tan's eyebrows twitched up and down for a while. He was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. Also, how could GMO be lonely when he heard this topic? He immediately moved closer like a cat that had smelled blood. He blinked his eyes sneakily. "This is a technical job. You don't know anything. So it's easy to mess it up. Wait until we go back. Then, I'll teach you a few tricks. This is an important matter in life. You can't be careless. You don't have the corresponding skills. So you can't do it." Tan Tan nodded repeatedly. He beamed with joy. "You two are good people. Helping others is a pleasure. This is what a chivalrous man of our generation should do." Luo Kadi and GMO put their arms around each other's shoulders. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Gu Duxing roared. "Are you two itching for a beating?" Both of them laughed evilly. Then, they pulled Tan Tan to pass on their experience. Luo Kadi's voice was faintly heard. "GMO, why do you look so experienced? Could it be that you've already consummated your marriage with your Abwa?" GMO's black-faced voice was heard. "A child shouldn't ask about this kind of thing." Luo Kadi laughed strangely. His voice was full of ridicule. Then, the sound of chasing and beating was heard. "It seems that this guy hasn't succeeded yet," Dong Wushang said in a deep voice. "I'm afraid that he would have bragged about it if he had succeeded." Gu Duxing nodded and said with emotion, "Yes, I know GMO well. I'm afraid that he would have even described the positions clearly. This guy is shameless." Chu Yang and Rui Butong looked at each other in amazement. It wasn't because GMO hadn't succeeded. Instead, it was because Dong Wushang and Gu Duxing were teasing each other. And the rarest thing was that they were echoing each other. There was basically no one left in the northern wilderness. Chu Yang also planned to go back with his brothers. Chu Yang and his brothers once again plundered some elixirs in the last 3 days. Then, they set foot on the return journey in high spirits. This king-level expert of the Gu clan, who was also an expert of the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, had already returned with the people of the Dark Bamboo. The 7 brothers didn't have any worries on the way back, so they walked at lightning speed. Only Chu Yang turned his head back to take a look at the northern wilderness when he was about to leave. 2 supreme-level experts have taken away my dreams here. My master has left from here. I don't know how little Wu Wu is doing. I don't know how master is doing. Chu Yang took a deep breath of the cool air of the northern wilderness. Then, he spat it out with all his might. It seemed as if he had spat out the indescribable sadness in his heart. Then he insipidly said, "Let's go." GMO and Luo Kadi carried the weights as they stepped out of the northern wilderness. Chu Yang rolled his eyes. Each of the 7 brothers was carrying 1,000 kilograms of star iron on their backs. This was twice as much as the time when they had come. However, the 7 of them were in high spirits as they chased after each other. None of them said anything. but they were secretly competing in their hearts. Let's see who can't hold on first. Anyway, it won't be me. Everyone felt that they would be the last one to hold on until the end. The curtains of a unique competition had been raised here. The 7 brothers didn't expect that there would be a huge wind echo and trouble waiting for them thousands of miles away. They were leisurely joking around as they walked back at a neither fast nor slow pace. Dong Wuxiang was thinking that he should have a talk with his elder brother after he got back. But how should he talk? Dong Wuxiang was sweating profusely while carrying 1,000 kilograms of star iron on his back. Gu Duxing was thinking, should I consider marrying Sister Xiao Miao in advance after I get back? What should I say? GMO was thinking, should I push Abwa down after we get back? Hiss, but that girl has a stocky back and a bare waist. I'm somewhat worried that I won't be able to control her. It would be very embarrassing if I were to be thrown to the ground. Can I consider sleeping incense an aphrodisiac? Tan Tan was scratching his head. What they are saying seems very well, hee. How about I look for that little girl Xia Dan Feng to practice with after I get back? Roy Butong was thinking, motherfucker, I should find one after I get back. How did I unknowingly get paired up? But who should I look for? This is really troublesome. If I can't find one, I'll just steal one. Luo Kadi was a little worried. Should I say it? Can Big Brother help me? This is really strange. Not only is there no hair, but it's also. Sigh, what should I do? It's really troublesome. If I say it, will Big Brother laugh? I'm really too ashamed. Chu Yang was thinking along the way. This time, I'll be back for 3 days. I should go to the Lake of Despair to find the 4th fragment of the Sword of Calamity. Regarding the collapse stage, I'll say a few words here. This kind of blind self-confidence is also present in us. It's really scary. Take myself as an example. When I was writing The Legend of Ling Tian, I was trembling with fear, as if I was treading on thin ice. But when I was writing the story of the otherworldly evil monarch, because I had some achievements, my mentality immediately became unstable. I felt that I was afraid of no one, but in reality I was just a fart at that time. Others wouldn't even look at me in the eye, haha. That was the mentality of a nouveau riche. It was very twisted. At the beginning of the story of Pride, I was full of confidence when I opened the book. But I was hit in the head and was completely awakened. Only then did I realize how wrong I was. So from then on, I defined a position for myself, forever a newcomer. Don't ever think that you're so great. Without the readers, without you guys, I'm really just a fart. I hope that I can go further with this mentality. Chapter 559. Ao Xia Yin was running for his life at this moment. His usual elegant and graceful moon-white brocade robe had already been torn to shreds. His entire body was covered in blood. His body was also riddled with scars. His hair was somewhat messy. His lips were dry. Even his eye sockets had sunk in. He was recognized as the successor of the number 1 clan in the 3 heavens. He was the grandson of the Ao clan's lineage. He was also the first successor to the clan lord's position. Ao Xia Yin had never been in such a difficult situation. He had never been hunted down like this. He had never been on the run like this. He had been on the run for more than 3 months. He had been constantly running for his life since he had left the northern wastelands. He had been struggling on the line of life and death several times, every day for more than 3 months. This Duke Xia had lost a lot of weight by now. God knows where so many enemies had come from. Each of them was wearing black clothes and had their faces covered. He had met a group of them every time he had walked. There had been an ambush at every strategic location. Blood had flowed like a river along the way. He had been on a killing spree. The enemies had used a silent poisonous fog to ruthlessly trap the people of the Ao clan in the first wave of contact. The 4 Emperor-level experts had risked their lives to protect Ao Xia Yin. All the other King-level experts had died. Ao Xia Yin's entire army would have been wiped out if he hadn't been guarding against the sneak attack of the Black Devil clan. However, the invisible falcons that had been used to transmit information to the clan had also died in that poisonous fog. Therefore, they had fallen into absolute isolation and helplessness. The long road was filled with murderous intent at every step. Then, enemies had appeared continuously. They had harassed, attacked, killed and chased. Only 2 Emperor-level experts had remained by Ao Xiaoyun's side. The other 2 had lost their lives in order to protect Ao Xiaoyun in the ambush. It had been a tragic ambush. The enemy had dispatched 8 Emperor-level experts. They had rushed forward to kill Ao Xiaoyun's team of 5 people. Ao Xiaoyun would have been lying on the ground if he hadn't had a flash of inspiration in that battle. He had comprehended a low-grade king-level expert and made a breakthrough. He would have turned into an ice-cold corpse. Ao Xiaoyun's team had been forced to deviate from the direction of the Ao clan. They had turned to another road. Going back from the original road would have undoubtedly been courting death. Since the other party wanted to rob and kill him with such great fanfare, how could they be willing to let him return safely to the Ao clan? None of the clans in the 3 heavens could withstand the crazy attacks of the Ao clan. Therefore, he had to be extremely careful. The slightest bit of carelessness would result in death on the road of escape. But even so, after continuously fleeing for 3.5 months, Ao Xia, proud world stage heavens, right? Yin also felt exhausted. There were more than 30 wounds on his body, which constantly reminded him that he couldn't escape anymore. If he continued to flee, even if the enemy couldn't catch up to him, his body would be done for. The 2 Emperor-level experts beside him were also on the verge of reaching the end of their lives. If it wasn't for their determination to protect the young master, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on any longer. Both of their cultivations were top-notch, 5th-grade Emperor-level experts. This was definitely the pinnacle of the 3 heavens. But the problem is, which 5th-grade Emperor-level expert has to face the attacks of at least 7 or 8 Emperor-level experts every day. Moreover, it's more than once and more than twice. At most, there would be a dozen waves of attacks a day. Even an Iron Man would be ground into molten iron by these attacks. Young master, I'm afraid something big will happen this time. Ao clan's 5th-grade Emperor-level expert Du Qingyun gasped for breath. His eyes were full of boundless hatred and grief. He was a peak 5th-grade Emperor-level expert. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? He had to watch his old brothers die one by one around him. And he had to run away like an old dog with its tail between its legs. This was a disgrace. But he didn't dare to fight. He was happy to fight. But what about the young master? Who would protect him? What would happen to the Ao clan if the young master was gone? Yes, the Jianghu will be in chaos. Ao Xiaoyun's appearance was very haggard, but his eyes were full of worry. Young master, there's something I need to say first. The other 5th-grade Emperor-level expert Qin Zhan was breathing somewhat heavily. He said with rapt attention, I'm afraid I won't be able to run away if the enemy attacks again. I'll risk my life to stop them. Then, young master and old Du, you 2 quickly leave. Ao Xiaoyun's eyes darkened. Qin Zhan had been fiercely fighting along the way, so he had sustained the most injuries. There were at least 7 wounds on his body, and he had taken a saber strike for Ao Xiaoyun. Qin Zhan didn't need to say anything. He and Du Qingyun had seen everything clearly over the past 3 months. Old Qin, don't be discouraged. We haven't reached that kind of desperate situation yet. Du Qingyun said with some difficulty. What's the point of talking about this at this time? Qin Zhan smiled freely and said, Old Du, you and I have roamed the Jianghu for our entire lives. We've killed thousands of people. Do you have any regrets? I'll leave the young master to you if the enemy catches up with us. Du Qingyun took a deep breath. He raised his head and looked at the white clouds drifting in the horizon. Then he slowly nodded. The Black Devil clan was among the people who ambushed us along the way. The O clan used poison. There were also a few people from the Tu clan. Qin Zhan coldly snorted. His eyes emitted a cold intention. Don't forget to pay back this blood debt. There should be other clans. These clans alone can't create such an inescapable net. Ao Xiaoyun's eyes emitted a cold intention. The Tian clan and the Tu clan should have also set into action if I'm not mistaken. Qin Zhan choked and coughed a few times. He squeezed out a smile and said, This ambush is our predestined fate. Someone is trying to deal with our Ao clan. But if young master can return this time, even if all of us die, this assassination attempt will become a great thing. Du Qingyan forced a smile and said, "That's right. This is a rare experience in the Jianghu. It's also a rare journey of spiritual transformation. Young master, what did you experience along the way?" Aoxia Yan's eyes turned somewhat red. These two people had always been his bodyguards. They were also his elders. They were only concerned about him at this moment of life and death. They were only concerned about his growth in a place of killing. They were concerned about his enlightenment in a place of blood. That's because these were the things that the world of the three heavens truly needed. I had a very deep feeling. This 10,000-mile trek has subverted my understanding of the three heavens. Aoxian held back the tears in his eyes and said carefully, "In the past, under the protection of my family, everything had always been smooth sailing. No matter where I went, as long as I announced my identity, there would always be people fighting to give me face. No matter what it was, it could be settled with just a few words. It was too smooth." Aoxia Yin heaved a deep sigh. It was so smooth that I didn't recognize myself. It was so smooth that I felt like I was floating in the air. Then, I effortlessly seized the title of the #1 expert of the younger generation of the three heavens. This made me even prouder. But this time, the ambush directly knocked me out of the clouds and into the abyss. It has shattered all my illusions. Aoxia Yin sighed sadly. It turns out that I'm only a domineering profligate son who relies on the support of my clan. They didn't touch me in the past because they had misgivings about the Ao clan. They had a request for the Ao clan. Or they had other intentions. They wanted to use me to do something. But when it comes to the point where they can obtain even greater benefits by killing me, they will do it without hesitation, just like now. Du Xiao and I can be considered friends. But it was the O clan's world-defying heavens clan who took advantage of my habits this time. So they were the most ruthless. Tianbu Hui and I can be considered acquaintances. We got along quite well. But the Tian clan wanted to kill me this time. And they didn't spare any effort. Tu Qian, Hao and I used to drink wine in the lower three heavens. But the Tu clan has become my life-threatening hand now. I had also visited the Black Devil clan. The Black Devil clan welcomed me with open arms. The young lord of the Black Devil clan had always been mysterious in front of others. But he had made an exception and revealed his true face to me. He was especially respectful. But the Black Devil clan had used all means to kill me this time. Aoxia Yin spoke in a low voice. The two emperor-level experts listened quietly. The mountain wind was whistling quietly. I had always thought that I had a wide circle of friends. I was generous, and I had friends all over the world. But I hadn't expected that the people who had framed me the most at this critical juncture of life and death would be those so-called friends of mine. Aoxia Yin smiled bleakly and said, "I'll take this as a warning if I can return to my clan." The two emperor-level experts didn't speak for a long time. Then, Du Qingyan heaved a deep sigh and said, "Young lord, you can't call someone friend casually. And you can't call someone brother casually either. You've only seen the surface. But you still haven't seen the essence. Benefits. They made friends with you for benefits. And they want to kill you for greater benefits. But they don't necessarily want to kill you for the sake of killing you. They must have some purpose." Qinzhan propped himself up and spoke earnestly and earnestly. "Young lord Tu Qian Hao Du Xiao, Tianbu Hui, these people call each other brothers. But you're still competitors. Moreover, because you have the title of the #1 clan, even if your strength is really much stronger than theirs, and you occupy the title of #1 in the younger generation, they will not sincerely accept you. Therefore you're not friends. There must be a core of true friends or brothers. And there must be a person whom everyone submits to. They must sincerely admire this person. From admiration, they must learn from him. From learning, they must be convinced. Then they must see others admire him as much as they do. Then they can slowly form a circle around this person and form the embryonic form of friends. Then they must do some things together under the leadership of this person. Then, they will slowly unfold their sincerity towards each other. And they will become brothers. And this brotherhood will become unshakable if they can survive a life and death situation. And this brotherhood will become even stronger if they can continue to experience life and death situations together. You don't have such friends or brothers. You always think that you do. But the people who have come to kill you are your so-called friends. Therefore, the first thing you must learn is that you mustn't believe in your friends and brothers if you don't have enough benefits. I've only seen a few people in your younger generation who are your true friends. Du Qingyan sighed. King of Hell Chu Gu Du Xing Dong Wu Shang Gmo and Luo Kudi. These people regard King of Hell Chu as their core, because they can't do what King of Hell Chu can do. Therefore they submit to him. King of Hell Chu can overturn the entire world with his own strength. And they can't do this. King of Hell Chu's cultivation is much weaker than theirs. But he can catch up with them at the fastest speed. And they can't do it. Therefore they submit to him. It's because I'm drunk, and I'm too happy. My cervical vertebra and spine are old problems. But I'm in good health. My blood pressure is a bit low. My blood pressure is 70%. And my blood pressure is 100%. Hee, my brother who's a doctor said. You smoke a bit too much. But you're comparable to a healthy donkey in other aspects. Chapter 560. Young Master, if you were King of Hell Chu and were in his position, would you be able to do it? Qin Zhan's words were somewhat impolite, but they were well-intentioned. I can't do it. Ao Xie was silent for a long time. Then he finally said it. When he said this, a trace of pain flashed through his eyes, but his heart relaxed. In the past, Ao Xie had analyzed the things that happened in the lower three heavens, and the conclusion he came to was, I can't do it. But for some reason, it always felt so far away at that time. But now, the words I can't do it were spoken from the bottom of his heart. For the proud and arrogant Ao Xie, this was the first time in his life that he had truly admitted that he was inferior to others. Du Qingyan gently breathed in. He slowly adjusted his breathing and adjusted his body. Then he said in a solemn voice, And you, young lord, to put it bluntly, your greatest capital isn't your aptitude. Rather, it's your family background. Tu Qianhao, O Du Xiao, and the others would think. They might not be worse than you if they were born in the Ao clan. That's why they're not convinced. Ao Xie muttered. Don't tell me that I was born in the Ao clan is enough to erase all my efforts? Who could have known that it was precisely because being born in the number one aristocratic family, like the Ao clan, was much more difficult than being born in other clans. If you want to stand out in the Ao clan, how much more effort do you have to put in compared to other clans? Qin Zhan was silent for a moment and said, No matter how hard you try, when others mention it, the first thing that comes to mind is the Ao clan. Only then will they mention your name. This is the glory and helplessness of being born in a big family. Ao Xie pondered for a while. Then he slowly nodded and said, But I'm Ao Xie no matter what. I'm also a member of the Ao clan. This is a fact that no one can change. Since I can't change it, I might as well accept it. That's right. No matter what, you're still you. You won't change. Qin Zhan happily smiled and said, Young lord, I believe that you will definitely surprise the clan when you return. Du Qingyan and Qin Zhan looked at each other, and both of them discovered a trace of sadness in each other's eyes. Yes, after experiencing this pursuit, as long as Ao Xie can return to the clan alive, he will definitely change. He will become more mature, more rational, and more ruthless. Unfortunately, the two of them would not be able to see it. The two of them sighed at the same time. Then they smiled faintly. So what if I can see it? So what if he couldn't see it? Ao Xie suddenly smiled and said, I'm not as good as King of Hell Chu. I can't do what King of Hell Chu can do. But King of Hell Chu may not be able to do what I can do. Moreover, King of Hell Chu isn't a member of our Ao clan. He smiled confidently. Even though he was in a difficult situation, he was still arrogant as he said indifferently, Moreover, I have the Ao clan, and I have all of you. So what if King of Hell Chu is amazing? After all, he has no conflict with us. The current situation is that as long as the three of us can escape, the situation of the entire three heavens will change, because of the three of us. At that time, the two uncles will have created the history of the three heavens. Ao Xian's eyes were shining. His thoughts were exquisite, And how meticulous were his observations. Naturally, he could tell that the two uncles were facing an absolute dead end. They felt that they were at the end of their rope and had lost their will to fight. I'm afraid that these two people will sacrifice themselves to protect me the next time they encounter an attack. Therefore, they are educating me at such a time. I wish that I can impart all of my life's experience to you in this short moment. But am I, Audiobook, a man without conscience? You are risking your life for me. So, how can I watch you die? Their will to fight had already collapsed. So the only thing they could do now was to summon their pride and sense of mission, so they could break out of this dead end and find a way to survive. Sure enough, Du Qingyan and Qin Zhan's eyes lit up as soon as they heard his words. Moreover, we may not necessarily have no chance. Audiobook calmed down and said, we mustn't go in the direction of the Ao clan for the time being. It would be better to go back. Go back? The two asked together. Yes, we will go in the direction of the northern wilderness. Audiobook's eyes flashed. This journey will certainly be beyond their expectations. They expect that we will take a detour back to the Ao clan. Therefore, we won't be able to pass the road ahead, even if we take a detour. So it would be better to retreat. Firstly, we will delay for time if we retreat. Secondly, we will save our lives. Thirdly, the Ao clan will certainly send people to look for us if they find out that we haven't returned after the scheduled time limit. And that will be our opportunity. Audiobook smiled and said, I believe that the three of us won't starve to death even in the northern wilderness with our combined strength. That's right. The two men's spirits were lifted. The only thing we can do now is to recuperate, uncles. You must know that I'll only be a corpse if I don't have the two of you. Even though I'm the young lord of the Ao clan. What hope will I have if I'm the only one left if you die? Audiobook sincerely heaved a long sigh. Don't worry, young lord. We won't die so easily if we can't see young lord out of danger with our own eyes. The two men looked at each other and made a firm resolution. It's not the time to die yet. Since that's the case, please drink these 2 bottles of spirit beast blood essence first. Audiobook took out the spirit beast blood essence from his bosom and handed it over. This spirit beast blood essence will be wasted if we don't return for a long time. Uncles, you can recover some of your strength, even if you can't comprehend anything if you take it now. Du Qingyan and Qin Zhan were in a dilemma. This was a treasure that the Ao clan desperately needed. The main mission of this trip was to bring back the spirit beast blood essence. Wouldn't it prove that they didn't have any harvest if they drank it now? But, wouldn't it be a waste if they didn't drink it? Wouldn't it lose its effectiveness after a while? Or it would be broken by the enemy in battle? Du Qingyan struggled for a long time. Then, he heaved a long sigh and took the 2 bottles. He said, this is also a matter of necessity. It's an expedient measure. So, the 2 of us will drink it with you, young lord. The 3 of us will drink it equally. As for whether we can comprehend it or not, that's up to fate. It'll depend on our luck. All right, Qin Zhan readily agreed. Let's save our lives first, then we'll talk about it later. The 3 men didn't have any more objections. They divided the blood essence between themselves and swallowed it. Unexpectedly, the 3 men opened their eyes 2 hours after they had swallowed the blood essence. Their complexions looked strange. My injuries have healed. But, I haven't comprehended anything. I haven't awakened anything either. Du Qingyan smacked his lips and scratched his scalp. My injuries have healed by half. But, I haven't gained anything either. Qin Zhan's complexion looked better. But he was even more puzzled. My injuries have healed. But I haven't seen any other signs either. Audiobook's cultivation was the lowest. So he had recovered the most of the blood essence. But why isn't there any abnormality? The 3 men were extremely depressed. They looked at each other in dismay. They were extremely disappointed. They obviously didn't know that Bulu Qing had taken away half of the blood essence of the spirit beasts in the northern wilderness. And the one they had encountered was one of those spirit beasts. The fact that the blood essence of such a spirit beast could help them recover from their injuries was already very good. Moreover, it couldn't help them comprehend anything else. The 3 men were sighing when Du Qingyan's complexion suddenly changed. He said, there's movement. The three men became vigilant. Then, the birds in the distant jungle got startled and swept towards them from 3 directions. Let's go! They didn't have enough time to sigh or regret anything. So the 3 men rushed towards the rear at the same time. Swish, swish. Countless hidden weapons suddenly shot towards them from the front. They were blue and purple in color. It was obvious that they had been dipped in poison. Du Qingyan let out a muffled groan. Then he rushed forward without uttering a word. His body slipped, and he took off his robe. Then, his elemental energy danced in the air and turned into a shield. The 3 men rushed forward like sharp arrows behind this shield. Stay here. 8 silhouettes appeared in the sky from 4 directions at the same time. And these silhouettes squeezed towards them. A sharp and long whistle resounded in all directions at the same time, and announced to all directions, "The enemy is here." The sound of sleeves fluttering in the air resounded unceasingly. Du Qingyan laughed out loud. Then, he shook his arms, and the hidden weapons shot on his robe flew back in all directions like a rain of flowers. Then he straightened his body and fiercely shot out his palm. The 3 men's weapons had already been broken and shattered during the previous siege, so they could only face the enemy with their bare hands at this moment. The sword light flickered on the opposite side, and the saber light crisscrossed in all directions. Then, 2 tall and sturdy silhouettes appeared behind the saber light and sword shadows. They were dressed in black, and their faces were covered with murderous aura. Du Qingyan clashed with the 2 men with a bang sound. Then he retreated. Qin Zhan caught up from behind and patted Du Qingyan's back with a hey sound. Du Qingyan's body stopped retreating. Instead he rushed forward. Qin Zhan pulled Aoxiayin and followed behind Du Qingyan. The 3 men took advantage of this fleeting gap like a whirlwind and crazily rushed out. Shwa! 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 Sounds were heard from behind. Qin Zhan fiercely circulated his energy, and the robe behind his body flew out with a bang sound. Then, the robe spun as it rushed backwards and blocked the flying hidden weapons. Then he rushed forward without turning his head. He took advantage of the fact that the enemies from the other 3 directions hadn't formed an encirclement and entered the jungle. Aoxiayen's body suddenly trembled before they entered the forest. Qin Zhan grabbed Aoxiayen's back without the slightest hesitation and pulled out a piece of flesh that had been pierced by a blue poisonous needle. Aoxiayen's entire body convulsed, but Qin Zhan didn't stop to pick him up. Blood flowed out of his body as he rushed out behind Du Qingyan like a whirlwind. Sharp whistles resounded from all directions behind them. Countless enemies had caught up with them. Chase after them. Kill them at all costs. A cold and ruthless voice sounded. Aoxiayen was in severe pain. He had almost fainted. Aoxiayen suddenly felt that this voice was somewhat familiar when he heard this. But he didn't have enough time to think about it. Qin Zhan had already carried him into the jungle and was rushing towards the extreme north. Chapter 561. Shwa! 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 The tide-like experts chased after the buttocks of the 3 men. The forest was silent. A person walked out from each of the 4 directions after a long time. Meng Luo, Tu Qianhao Odu Xiao, and Tian Buhui. They should have gone north. Tian Buhui's eyes flickered with a dangerous light. Aoxiayen is very cautious. He's going in the opposite direction. Odu Xiao waved his hand and sprinkled a white fog. The white fog pervaded the air for a moment and then fell on the ground. But 3 empty spots appeared on the ground. They should have been here a moment ago. They shouldn't have been able to hold on for long given their injuries. But they've suddenly become lively. So something must have happened here. Odu Xiao looked at the 3 empty spots where the white fog had appeared. Then, he turned his hand and sprinkled a mass of black and odorless fog. The black fog suddenly became colorless when it came in contact with the white fog. Then, a few bright red bloodstains appeared on the ground. They were as big as a needle tip and were scattered on the ground. They've taken the blood essence of spirit beasts, Odu Xiao insipidly said. The others were startled by this mysterious method of his. They had once again witnessed the strength of the poison spirit clan. No matter who it was, no one would be able to hide from such a miraculous investigative method. We've joined hands to chase after Aoxiayen this time. But we'll become a big joke if we let him escape. Meng Luo smiled in a feminine manner. Chase after him. Suddenly, a sinister voice rang out. If you guys are still just following behind and giving advice after the fact, Ao Xian will never die. They looked towards the source of the voice and saw a black-clothed and masked figure standing on a treetop. He was fluttering in the wind. It was the young black devil. He sneered. Then he soared up like a black cloud and chased towards the north. Humph! The four men snorted at the same time. But they didn't dare to be negligent. They got up at the same time and chased towards the north. We'll reach the chill wind forest after we cross this steep gorge. Gu Duxing was sweating profusely. It wasn't easy to carry 2,000 kilograms of star iron. Should we look for trouble with the O clan? GMO and Luo Kadi were somewhat eager to give it a try. I don't think that with the strength of the 7 of us, we have the strength and qualifications to provoke a big family. Dong Wuxiang snorted and said, if the 2 of you are itching to go, you can go together. We won't accompany you. GMO and Luo Kadi simultaneously stuck out their tongues. We don't need to look for trouble with them. I'm afraid that they themselves will look for trouble with us. Gu Duxing calmly said. The O clan won't dare to passively face our retaliation. Not bad. Chu Yang nodded approvingly. We must be careful. Everyone had been on high alert all along the way. However, they hadn't expected that they would pass through the chill wind forest without any mishap. Gu Duxing and the others also went in to pay their respects. Why is there no movement? No matter what, there should be an ambush, right? Was the O clan so cowardly? You don't even dare to lay an ambush? Luo Kadi scratched his ears and cheeks. Everyone had passed through the chill wind forest and had arrived in front of the mountain. Second young Master Luo had felt that his strength had grown very fast during this period of time. So, he had been looking for an opportunity to show off his strength. Sigh. Chu Yang heaved a deep sigh. Then, he fiercely glared at Luo Kadi. Why do I feel that you have a super crow mouth? Chu Yang received a prompt from the sword spirit as soon as Luo Kadi had finished speaking. There is a large number of enemies lying in ambush in front of the mountain. Remove the star iron. Start to rest and prepare for battle. Gu Duxing and Dong Wuxiang immediately became alert as Chu Yang waved his hand. Is there an ambush? There is an ambush. Chu Yang fiercely stood behind the tree. He held his breath. There isn't just an ambush. There is a large number of ambushes. Everyone glared at Luo Kadi at the same time. Luo Kadi blinked his eyes. He felt somewhat dizzy. I can't be so powerful, right? Did I really call out an ambush with just a few casual words? Tan Tan shrugged his shoulders and came over. He then raised his nose and said, You small shrimps of King Level 5, step back. See how this great master shakes them with his fart. Tan Tan would have been beaten up by a group of people if it hadn't been for the fact that this was a very special time. Tan Tan, Butong, you two go in that direction. Wuxiang, Kadi, you two go in that direction. Duxing, GMO, follow me. We will cover for you. Pay attention. The ambush should be 3,000 feet away. You are free to attack and kill once you get close. Chu Yang gave the order without the slightest hesitation. Chu Yang would have said in the past, Listen to my orders and move in unison. Don't alert the enemy by any means. However, Chu Yang could only let his brothers move freely at this time. They had reached the time to shape their own fighting style. So they would only lose their own style if Chu Yang blindly restricted them. And they would never be able to stand alone if they lost their unique style. Everyone silently looked at each other after they had rested for a while. Then Tan Tan and Rui Butong rushed out from the other side like two cheetahs. Dong Wuxiang held the black saber in his hand. Luo Kadi's long sword was hidden behind his elbow. They also silently disappeared. Gu Duxing, Chu Yang and GMO moved at the same time. Chu Yang was in front, and Gu Duxing and GMO were behind him. Gu Duxing and GMO were completely stunned after they had taken a dozen or so steps. Chu Yang's body seemed to have turned into a twisted wisp of green smoke in front of them. He moved like a snake through the dense forest. He didn't make the slightest sound from top to bottom. It seemed that his huge body didn't even touch a single tree. Well, even if he did touch a tree, The sound he made wasn't like the sound of a human body colliding with a tree. Instead, it was a slight cha-cha sound. It seemed as if a small bird had landed on a tree and stepped on it. You must remember to move stealthily in the dense forest. First, every tree has its own growth direction. You must change your position at any time, if you don't want to be discovered. Then you must move forward along the growth direction of this tree. Chu Yang indifferently said. Then, his palms silently chopped 2 big trees on either side of him. Wood chips flew everywhere. You see, the tree grain of this tree is horizontal. You see, the trees on this tree are different. But the parts where the stems are connected are certainly horizontal. You will make a loud sound if you touch such a tree from any other direction. And an experienced Jianghu person will immediately become alert. But if you touch it horizontally in the direction of its growth and fall, the sound it makes will be the sound of a tree falling naturally. And the tree on this side is somewhat spiraling. This kind of tree tends to fall later. So when I pass by this kind of tree, I use a spiraling force. Chu Yang explained little by little. And this phenomenon can be clearly seen from the bark of the tree. Gu Duxing and GMO carefully observed as they moved forward. Then they nodded. As for your feet, don't just think about breathing. You must also pay attention to the direction of the wind and the growing position of the grass. If you are under the tree, it will inevitably tilt in the opposite direction. Follow this tilt and wind direction. Even if you don't breathe, the sound you make will not be loud. If you adapt to this direction, there will be no sound at all. Chu Yang continued to move forward. When there is sunlight like this, you must pay attention to the color of your clothes, the shape of the trees behind you, and the mottled shadows of the trees in front of you. Once the enemy looks over, you must immediately take advantage of these and stand in a suitable position. Even if you don't hide anything, your body will turn into a part of the forest under these mottled rays of light. So the enemy won't be able to see you face to face. As he said this, Chu Yang made a move. He quickly moved from his current position to the opposite side. Although he was facing the sunlight, Gu Duxing and GMO shockingly discovered that under the illumination of the sunlight, Chu Yang's black clothes seemed to have turned into a big tree. It was impossible to distinguish the real from the fake. Even his face was covered by the shadow of the tree. There was light, and there was darkness. If they didn't know that Chu Yang was hiding there, they wouldn't have been able to find him. Everyone knows that the night is the best time to sneak around. But, in this mountain forest, a sunny day with the sun is the best time to hide. Because the rays of the sun can turn anything into anything other than its original form. Chu Yang casually said. Now the 2 of you follow my pace. We will rush in front of the enemy while they are staring at us. These words weren't bold and visionary, but Gu Duxing and GMO felt a surge of blood in their hearts when they heard these words. It seemed that a bloodthirsty murderous aura had fiercely awakened after these words were spoken. Let's go! 3 silhouettes shot out like arrows from a bow. They crossed 1,000 feet in a flash. Then they crossed another 50 feet, and got closer. Even closer. 50 people. Sword Spirit had already reported the exact number. Chu Yang's body made an illusion, due to the reflection of the sunlight. He looked like a big lizard as he climbed to the top of the mountain. Then, he got within 300 feet of the enemy. Gu Duxing and GMO also followed him. The 3 of them looked forward and were startled. What's going on? The 3 of them looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't figure out what was going on. Most of these people are from the O clan. There's no doubt about this. The cold aura of the Poison Spirit clan can't be imitated by others. This ambush is indeed an ambush. Moreover, the lineup is quite large. Chu Yang had already felt that this was a thorny problem at first glance. There were at least 15 king-level experts. Moreover, the auras of 4 of them were unfathomable. 10 king-level experts. The rest are revered martial artists. There are also 4 emperor-level experts. 2 are 2nd grade, and 2 are 3rd grade, Sword Spirit clearly reported. Chu Yang didn't find it strange that there were 4 emperor-level experts. But the thing that really surprised him was, why are they facing the opposite direction if they are ambushing us? They were facing Chu Yang's side. And they were facing their backs and buttocks. These ambushing experts were stretching their necks to look forward. Some of them were sitting cross-legged in a calm and composed manner. However, they were also showing their backs to Chu Yang and the others. What kind of ambush is this? Chu Yang felt very flabbergasted. You have come to intercept and kill us. But you're facing us with your buttocks. This is the first time I've seen such a strange ambush. Motherfucker, do you want to collectively fart and suffocate us to death? Chapter 562. The three of them looked at each other. They were baffled. GMO opened his mouth and almost laughed out loud. Motherfucker, this is the first time I've seen someone ambush with their buttocks. A gust of south wind blew, and a faint voice drifted over along with the wind. Why aren't they here yet? Don't worry, there was a delay on the way. Pay attention. What's that over there? Fuck a rabbit. Motherfucker. The corner of Chu Yang's mouth twitched. The two third-grade Emperor-level experts suddenly stood up. They seemed to have sensed something, and looked around suspiciously. They shook their heads and laughed in self-mockery. Then they separated into two groups, and walked over to check the ambush. It seemed that they were very attentive. Chu Yang, Gu Duxing, and the other two were even more confused. We are behind your buttocks. Why are you looking in front of you? They heard the Emperor-level expert ask in a deep voice. Have you checked the poison field? Has it failed? A king-level expert behind a tree replied in a low voice. Elder, rest assured. I have checked it 3 times. I have also checked the poison field twice. It's absolutely safe. There's absolutely no problem. Well, make sure that we don't get discovered in advance. We can't use our full strength on the periphery. These guys are very vigilant. We can slip away in case there's any sign of trouble. We must make sure that nothing goes wrong this time. The Emperor-level expert nodded and reminded. Yes. The two men circled around and returned to their original positions. Chu Yang quietly crouched in the underbrush and remained motionless. Since he didn't move, GMO and Gu Duxing naturally didn't move either. Suddenly, the two black-clothed men stood up from their original ambush place and made a hand gesture. That Emperor-level expert frowned and shouted in a low voice. Where are you going? I'm going to pee. That Emperor-level expert's face suddenly revealed a disgusted look. He waved his hand and said in a bad mood, Go further away. The two revered martial artists repeatedly nodded in agreement. They walked side by side and stepped on the ground with schwa 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 sounds. They walked for more than 300 feet, and the forests covered the road. Then they stopped. One of them said, Motherfucker, we've been preparing here for half a month and we haven't seen a single soul. Another person sighed and removed his belt. Let's wait. It's better if they don't come. Once they come, damn. Which one of them is easy to deal with? That's true. The one who spoke earlier had already taken out his weapon. He closed his eyes, held his breath, and prepared to fire. Pitter-patter-patter. Second Master Ji was furious. He is lying in the bushes motionless. But these two fellows are walking towards him. He opened his eyes slightly and saw 4 small legs in front of him. The next moment, a hot water arrow accurately landed on the left side of his face. The force behind the arrow was extremely fast. Warm droplets of that thing splashed up along with the strong release, splashing onto Second Master Ji's face. Second Master Ji's lungs were about to explode, following which, another hot water arrow accurately landed on the right side of his face. Second Master Ji could no longer tolerate this. Because although the previous one was disgusting, it was still white and shiny. But this one was as red as the Yellow River, as if it was sick. And the smell was even stronger. GMO was instantly filled with grief and indignation. The 3 of us came together, but why did you only pee at me? Aren't you fucking bullying us? The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Finally, he couldn't hold it in any longer and stood up. These 2 revered martial artists were currently peeing with their eyes closed. They were peeing to their heart's content. They had been holding back for a long time, and they felt an indescribable sense of comfort. But who would have thought that they would come out alive from the 2 streams of urine? This shock was no small matter. The 2 of them immediately opened their eyes, and their eyeballs bulged out at the same time. In their extreme nervousness, the 2 water arrows also lost their momentum. They peed into their crotches and stopped. Just as they were about to call out, Second Master Ji's hands, which were filled with anger, grabbed their throats. With a slight puff sound, their necks were strangely tilted to one side. Second Master Ji's violent energy had already rushed into their meridians and sealed off all movements in their lower bodies. The two of them only trembled twice before they died an unnatural death. Until now, their hands were still in the posture of strangling the birds. They didn't have time to change their posture. Walalala. The stream of water that had been cut off by the shock suddenly continued to spray out after its owner had lost consciousness. This time, not a single bit was wasted. All the remaining water splashed onto Second Master Ji's crotch. Second Master Ji's mouth was crooked, and his eyes were slanted. He gritted his teeth in hatred, but didn't dare to make a sound. A voice came from afar. "What's wrong?" It turned out that he had vaguely heard the commotion here. GMO was stunned. How should he answer? Suddenly, a low and angry voice said, "This bastard peed on my crotch." It was the voice of the revered martial artist who had spoken first. GMO was greatly surprised. He turned his head and saw Chu Yang's mouth moving as he spoke. It was rare for King of Hell Chu to imitate this person's tone so vividly. GMO came to his senses. He hastily muttered vaguely, "Isn't this an accident? I didn't do it on purpose." "Look at how anxious you are," Chu Yang angrily said. "An accident? Both of my crotches are wet." GMO almost suffered internal injuries. "Motherfucker. The one whose crotches are wet is me, isn't it?" There was a rumbling sound from the other side. Someone laughed in a low voice and took pleasure in other people's misfortune. That emperor-level expert didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He cursed and didn't speak anymore. However, the other people started to move. One of them whispered, "Why did that guy pee on other people's crotch?" His voice was full of feigned surprise. Another person muttered in a pensive tone, "According to my conjecture, he may have peed on the wrong side." But why did he pee on the wrong side? That person seemed even more surprised. He couldn't understand. "According to my conjecture, there are some reasons behind this," that pensive voice said. "What reasons?" The surprised voice continued to ask. He wanted to get to the bottom of this matter. Firstly, if this guy suddenly thought of something when he was sleeping last night, and there is clearly no proper channel here, he is holding it in for a long time, and it is easy for a deformity to appear. If he drinks water in the morning, it is possible for him to pee on the wrong side. I see. I'm convinced. But what's the second reason? As for the second reason, it is very hard to say. Some people, if there is no proper channel for a long time, will use a very strange method. They will charge forward with a spear and use their own method to get rid of their inner demons. And after getting rid of their inner demons, it is easy for them to experience a period of weakness. In this period of weakness, they will pee on the wrong side. Such penetrating insight. I'm convinced. You flatter me. There was a rumbling sound, and laughter could be heard everywhere. Although they didn't dare to be loud, it was a little chaotic. Many people were lying on the ground, laughing silently until their bodies were trembling and spasming. Chu Yang, Gu Duxing, and GMO were stunned. This is a fucking group of talents. It looks like this group of people has really been holding it in for a long time. Others were just peeing, and they were actually quoting the classics and analyzing for a long time before starting a lesson seriously. Chu Yang stood up and gently laid down the two corpses with GMO. Then Chu Yang walked out in front, grumbling in a low voice. "Fuck, look at my two pants. They are so cold. What do you want me to do? To think that you guys are laughing so happily." When he said this, more laughter could be heard. A few people turned around and said, "That's the fate between the two of you." These people turned around, but they could only see Chu Yang and Gu Duxing's black clothes. They couldn't see their faces. Their faces were completely covered by the trees. Someone even said jokingly, "It's rare for the two of you to be so close to each other even when peeing." When he said this, laughter could be heard everywhere. At this time, Chu Yang was laughing as he approached a guy at the edge of the crowd. He talked as he walked, and his voice was so vivid that no one realized that it was fake. No one noticed that he had deviated a little. "Fuck, next time no matter what, I won't pee with him anymore." Chu Yang laughed in a low voice. He was a little regretful, a little embarrassed, and a little angry. However, the sword in his hand flew out and silently stabbed into the guy's ribs from 30 feet away. It pierced through his heart and lungs, nailing his body firmly to the ground. This person was completely unprepared. How could he have thought that his comrade would actually kill him? A moment ago, he was still laughing in a low voice. The next moment, he felt a piercing pain in his ribs. He was just about to cry out in pain when fresh blood suddenly poured into his lungs. Then, a strong wave of vital energy rushed into his meridians and took control of his central nervous system. Then his eyes silently bulged, and he stopped breathing. Chu Yang laughed in annoyance. He walked over and scolded jokingly. "Look at you. Is it worth it for you to laugh until you stop breathing when someone pees?" As he said this, he laughed. His laughter was calm, intimate, and somewhat resentful. However, he secretly pulled out the sword from the guy's body and stuck it to his back. Then, he shook his head and sighed as he walked in the direction of the other guy behind the mountain rock. His footsteps were light and heavy. It was as if he was walking in his own headquarters. GMO followed behind him. He could only feel his little heart beating wildly. Oh my God! Today I have really seen what it means to kill someone while talking and laughing. The most amazing thing was that he still looked really relaxed before and after killing someone. There was absolutely no reluctance, and absolutely no trace of murderous aura. The guy behind the mountain rock was laughing so hard that his stomach hurt. He was also the one who laughed the hardest. Chu Yang scolded angrily. "Fuck, isn't it just a small matter? Look at you laughing like a fur seal. Are old jokes so funny? I must teach you a lesson today." Chapter 563. That person laughed and said, "Motherfucker, can't you stand it when I laugh at you? You actually want to cause trouble for me? You've really got guts." He laughed as he turned around. What he saw was a bright and condensed sword light. In a flash, it pierced his throat. One ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. Chu Yang followed the sword momentum and fiercely pounced on his body. Then he heavily punched his body. He laughed and said, "I'll let you laugh." That person's body twisted and spasmed strangely. Then he stopped moving. His eyes were wide open. They were full of disbelief. Apparently, he never dreamed that his companion, who was joking with him just a moment ago, would suddenly become a killer. "I'm a king-level master, and this guy is just a revered martial artist. How can he kill me? Why does he want to kill me?" With all these questions, this king-level master died with his eyes wide open. Chu Yang laughed mischievously. He jumped up from his body and punched GMO. GMO fell to the ground. He gasped for breath. You're still laughing." GMO was a clever person. He kicked Chu Yang's stomach and sent him flying. Then he gasped for breath. "You're allowed to be peed on. But I'm not allowed to laugh?" Then he pounced on Chu Yang. Puff puff puff, Chu Yang screamed. "You're done laughing." "Ouch! You kicked my balls." Suddenly, everyone around burst into laughter. Several busybodies couldn't bear it. They stood up from their seats and walked over. Everyone couldn't help but smile. Someone laughed as he walked. "Motherfucker. You're so righteous even after being peed on. This is the first time I've seen someone like that. Did you pee on your head?" Chu Yang said angrily. "Try peeing on your crotch. Your crotch is wet. How strange." "Ouch. You hiss. Motherfucker, you hit my crotch. Haha." Suddenly, there was another burst of laughter. 7 or 8 people walked over quickly. Everyone was in high spirits. When he arrived, he saw 2 black-clothed men rolling on the ground. One of them was covering his crotch and curling up like a shrimp, while the other was on top of him, punching him. A middle-grade king-level expert restrained himself from laughing. He then said in a dignified manner, "Why aren't you getting up? What have you become?" As soon as the order was given, the 2 immediately jumped up obediently. Not only did they jump up, but they also jumped exceptionally high and split into 2 different directions. At the same time, 2 bright sword lights flashed out, causing the entire forest to be illuminated with a bright white light. GMO had fused with his sword. His entire body had transformed into a god of death that had rushed out from hell. His entire body was covered with an indestructible sword energy. Then, He ferociously rushed towards the 3 king-level experts on his side with an earth-shattering momentum. It was as if a mountain was crashing down. As long as Chu Yang wielded his sword of calamity, what harm was there in slaughtering the entire world? This move was brazen. It had transformed into a wild dragon that could overturn rivers and seas. The sword had just attacked, and a burst of sword light shot out. Then it soared high into the sky. It was as if the Milky Way was hanging upside down, and a meteor was flying through the sky. The king-level expert who bore the brunt of the attack had a smile on his face. But then, his heart was pierced with a puff sound. Then his body was torn apart. A head with a bright smile on his face flew into the air. The second king-level expert was immediately enveloped by the sword light. He was completely defenseless. The smile on his face froze. He didn't even have time to turn into panic before he was sent flying. The third king-level expert only had time to issue a blood-curdling scream before a bloody hole appeared on his body. Then it was the fourth king-level expert. This king-level expert finally had enough time to react. He hastily pulled out his sword from its sheath. He didn't have time to form any technique, so he desperately used his sword to block. The calamity sword fiercely rushed over. Then, a soft crack sound was heard, and the sword was broken into pieces. A blood-curdling scream was heard as the king-level expert's arm was twisted into powder. Then, Chu Yang rushed into the king-level expert's bosom with his sword. A mass of sword light mixed with countless pieces of flesh and blood spread out. The air was already filled with dense blood mist. Chu Yang didn't stop. He still used the "what harm is there in slaughtering the entire world" move. He fiercely attacked the remaining king-level expert. That king-level expert repeatedly issued a sharp scream. He raised his hand, and a mass of black fog spread out. Then he raised his hand again, and a mass of white fog was fiercely released. In the blink of an eye, all kinds of poisonous fog had already filled this space. He madly used poison techniques, and all kinds of hidden weapons. As he retreated, he screamed in panic and pulled out his sword. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. He didn't stop, and he rushed into the poisonous fog. The sword energy filled the air, and the poisonous fog spread. Chu Yang had already rushed out. The shining sword light had already arrived in front of this king-level expert. This king-level expert screamed. He fiercely threw out the long sword in his hand. Then he turned around and ran. Facing the might of Chu Yang's sword, and seeing the miserable state of his companion, he didn't even have the courage to block it. He directly ran away. The tip of Chu Yang's sword sank. It suddenly changed from "what harm is there in slaughtering the entire world" to "what harm is there in slaughtering the entire world." The sword light converged, and it immediately flew into the sky. It was as if a peerless sword that had been buried for 10,000 years had suddenly been unearthed. It revealed its peerless sharpness. Poof! The sword light was still shining in midair. The sword energy had already rushed into the back of the king-level expert, who was running away. That king-level expert trembled. His face was full of despair. He struggled and shouted, "Help!" However, the rainbow-like sword light pierced through his back as soon as these two words left his mouth. Then, Chu Yang rushed out of his body along with his sword and landed 50 feet away. His sword was slanted towards the ground, and the blood droplets on the sword's blade dripped down with a schwa sound. With a bang, the body of this king-level expert was torn apart. His face was still full of panic and despair. His big head had already rolled several times on the ground. On the other side, GMO withdrew his sword. In front of him was a pile of badly mutilated corpses. 2 king-level experts, and a revered martial artist, had been caught off guard by the sword light of his body and sword at the same time. Silence. There was an indescribable silence in the forest. The dense fog of blood and the poisonous fog hadn't had time to disperse. They were undulating in the air. He wanted to prove to everyone what kind of unbearable tragedy had just happened. Who would have thought that 2 people had gone to pee and had attracted such a vicious and merciless god of death? In the blink of an eye, 8 human lives had become nothing more than a wisp of smoke. Bastard! A tall and sturdy figure roared furiously. It was a second-grade emperor-level expert. He was so angry that he couldn't control himself. He jumped out of his hiding place. His face was distorted as he asked, You, who are you people? The people who want your life, a cold voice replied. Then, the tip of a sword suddenly appeared in front of him. Then it was fiercely pulled back. Then, a palm hit his back with great force. This emperor-level expert's face was full of disbelief. His body was violently hit, and he was sent flying. He still couldn't believe that he had been fatally injured. He roared, and pulled out his sword in the air. Then he fiercely mobilized all the energy in his body. With a puff sound, 2 perfectly round arrows of blood spurted out from his front and back. All the strength in his body was sucked out at the same time. He was like a sack that had been emptied, and he fell from the sky. He fell to the ground with a puff sound. Then, he desperately raised his head, and turned his neck to look behind him. Who is it? It's me. Following a voice that was so calm that it was cruel, a black-clothed youth quietly walked out. The moment he appeared, a cold and sharp aura suddenly appeared. It was as if a sword had walked out instead of a person. A human-shaped sword. It was Gudu Xing. He had taken advantage of the moment when GMO and Chu Yang had attracted everyone's attention to quietly sneak into the inner circle. Then he made his move, and it was indeed a success. Originally, Gudu Xing's target was the 2 third-grade emperor-level experts. However, the 2 of them were too vigilant. Moreover, they were too calm. Gudu Xing was afraid that if he didn't make his move, it would ruin his plan. Now that this guy had jumped out, how could Gudu Xing let him go? No matter what, he was still a 2nd-grade emperor-level expert. Killing him would be a huge blow to the enemy's fighting strength. The 3 brothers stood in a triangular formation. Below their feet were scattered pieces of corpses. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All the people who had been lying in ambush came over at the same time and surrounded the 3 of them. They surrounded them quietly. Everyone's eyes were filled with uncontrollable anger. These 3 people had killed their comrades as soon as they appeared. 2 of them had been assassinated silently. As for the 2 who had gone to pee earlier, no one thought that they were still alive, because that was absolutely impossible. There were 50 people in total, but 13 of them had already died. They had died under despicable assassination and sneak attack. Who are you people? That 3rd-grade emperor-level expert quietly appeared. His eyes were filled with intense indignation as he looked at Chu Yang. GMO laughed mischievously and said, "This question is really interesting. You have so many people lying in ambush here. Aren't you trying to kill us? Now that we have come out, you actually ask us who we are? Old man, is your brain damaged?" The 3rd-grade king-level expert was extremely angry, but he couldn't help but be startled. Ambush you. He suddenly became furious. Who do you think you are? Do you think that this old man has come here to ambush you? GMO was startled. He then said while stammering, "Don't tell me, you aren't people of the O clan?" "We are obviously people of the O clan." The 3rd-grade emperor-level expert angrily said, "Who are you? Which clan are you from? Bastard. Why didn't you ambush us, since you are from the O clan?" GMO scratched his head. He had a tangled look on his face. This isn't right. Who are you here to deal with? The 3rd-grade emperor-level expert almost fainted from anger. He angrily said without thinking, "I was waiting here to capture Ao Xie. Who do you think you are?" GMO was startled. He couldn't help but look apologetic. He repeatedly waved his hand and said, "Oh, this is really a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding." Chapter 564. Chu Yang and Gudu Xing were also startled. We were fighting to the death for a long time, but the other side didn't deal with us? So, we ended up taking the blame for Ao Xie? What's this? Motherfucker. What kind of friendship do I have with Ao Xie? The people of O clan, and the few people of Hayamo clan who had come to assist felt dizzy. You have already chopped up so many of our people. But you still have the nerve to say that this is a misunderstanding? This motherfucker's mouth is really amazing. Once you open your mouth, you are the sky. But once you close your mouth, you are the earth. GMO frowned. He then said with a bitter face, "Fuck brothers, you see. I'm really sorry. Who is Ao Xie? What kind of thing is he? We don't know him from the start. Don't you think so?" Cough cough. This is a big misunderstanding. He touched his nose and mischievously smiled. He then awkwardly said, You see, how about we apologize to you? Say sorry, and let this matter go? Isn't it? Let it go. It's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Jimo's words became more and more earnest as he spoke. That third great emperor-level expert of O clan almost went crazy with anger. What are you talking about? You killed people. And you want to let it go with just a sorry? It's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive? What kind of bullshit is this? GMO said in a very serious manner. Senior, as the saying goes, the dead can't be brought back to life. So please restrain your grief. After all, we're dead now. But their heads have already fallen off. Moreover, we have to show our sincerity in order to win your understanding. What sincerity? That emperor-level expert looked at the expressions on the faces of the three people. And he finally believed that this was a misunderstanding. You see, GMO cautiously probed. We were careless and killed 13 of your people. So, we have decided to compensate you with 13 coffins. No matter what, we have to bury the dead in peace. Leaving their corpses in the wilderness is too cruel. What else? That third great emperor-level expert heard this. He saw that GMO had paused. So he couldn't help but ask. No. GMO said with a bitter face. You see, we're outside. We don't have anything with us. And we're being used as scapegoats. We're also being wronged. How can we explain this? Do we really want to kill that much? We are not homicidal maniacs. You killed 13 of our men. And you're giving us 13 coffins as compensation? Nothing else. That third great emperor-level expert finally exploded. He stomped his foot and roared, Bastard! Are you toying with this old man? We wouldn't dare. Jimo's face was sullen. Really, there's no other way. We don't have any money. How about this? Let's take a step back. If this unfortunate man has any family members, we can also take care of them. For example, if he has a young and beautiful sister or daughter, we can also take care of them comfortably. Bastard. You were really playing with me. The third-grade king-level expert flew into a rage. A wisp of smoke rose from his forehead. Ha ha ha. Old bastard. GMO laughed out loud. He jumped up and patted the old man. He said, You old bastard. If I don't play with you, then who do I play with? You've lived for so long. But, you've been living like a fucking dog all this time. You're a stubborn old man with a knot in his head. You're an unenlightened fool. You've lived for 1,000 years, but you're still a bastard. You deserve to be played with. That third-grade emperor-level expert was so angry that his entire body was convulsing. He was almost unable to breathe. His lips trembled as he said, You're a junior. I won't be Omufong if I don't dismember your body into thousands of pieces today. Omufong, what's wrong with you? Omufong, you motherfucker. GMO spat out a mouthful of saliva. He then put his hands on his waist and said, Old bastard, old turtle. Come on. Are you happy? Dog ant. This is GMO. This is King of Helchu's group. And the one with the sword is Gudu Xing. Someone finally recognized GMO. This dog ant had become his signature phrase. And this exposed second young Master G's true identity. I'm your father, your ancestor. GMO put his hands on his waist and looked up to the sky and laughed heartily. I haven't come out of Jianghu for a long time. And I was wondering if my charm had declined. But no one had recognized me even after so long. But I'm finally relieved now. Not bad. You deserve a reward. Omufeng's belly exploded with anger. Suddenly, a guy jumped out and looked at Chu Yang. How come only the three of you are here? Where are the others? This old man was Omufeng's elder brother O Jinfeng. He vigilantly looked all around as he spoke. King of Helchu had gone to the northern wilderness with several people. So, how come only these three are here now? The others are here. It wasn't Chu Yang who had said this. Instead, two people had spoken in unison. A mournful and dazzling saber light impressively appeared along with these words. And a sharp sword light also rushed out at the same time. Dong Wuxiang's sturdy body was impressively revealed like pig iron. Just by standing there, it gave people the feeling that a mountain range made of iron had suddenly appeared in front of them. Dong Wuxiang coldly snorted. He waved his saber, and a revered martial artist and a king-level expert on his left got chopped into 4 pieces. Then, he waved his saber to the right and smashed them down. Yes, it was smashed. The black saber weighed more than 250 kilograms. So its might couldn't be displayed without the word smashing. The two experts on the right desperately tried to block it. Their swords were broken with a kacha sound. Then, their heads were separated with a bang sound. Dong Wuxiang's majestic body was dripping with blood. He took a big step forward and shouted, "Get lost!" A middle-grade king-level expert bore the brunt of his attack. Dong Wuxiang's saber chopped down like a thunderbolt. This king-level expert bellowed, "You're the one who should get lost." He brandished his sword to meet Dong Wuxiang's attack head-on. A loud clang sound was heard, and the sword shattered into pieces of iron. Then this middle-grade king-level expert rolled out like a rubber ball on the ground. He repeatedly spat out blood with a wah sound. This was exactly what Dong Wuxiang had said. "Get lost!" Dong Wuxiang didn't move an inch. His majestic body was like a towering mountain. He disdainfully snorted and walked in with big strides. A fifth-grade saber king against a middle-grade king-level expert. And a middle-grade king-level expert had been sent flying in a single exchange. Moreover, he had been seriously injured. This was a miracle in anyone's eyes. That king-level expert was a middle-grade king-level expert. However, Dong Wuxiang was a genuine peak 5th-grade saber king. Moreover, he had suppressed his strength to prevent him from making a breakthrough. Dong Wuxiang would have been an 8th-grade saber king if he hadn't suppressed his strength. Dong Wuxiang's black saber weighed more than 250 kilograms. Moreover, he had innate divine strength. So, it would have been strange if he hadn't been able to send a middle-grade king-level expert flying even if he had used the sword. Luo Kudi's sword light was like a viper on the other side. Shwa! 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 It swept past 3 people in quick succession. A thin trace of blood appeared on the throats of the 3 people at the same time. Then a gorgeous blood light violently shot out. The 3 corpses slowly fell down. Luo Kudi had already clashed with another king-level expert at this time. Luo Kudi's body somersaulted in the air and entered the encirclement. He was standing beside Gu Duxing. The temperaments of these 2 people were somewhat similar at this moment. Both of them were like sharp swords. However, there were still some differences, if one were to carefully distinguish them. Gu Duxing was like a peerless divine weapon with restrained sharpness. He was standing motionless, but his sharpness was faintly discernible. He was ready to draw his sword at any time. On the other hand, Luo Kudi was like a blood-stained sharp sword that was ready to kill. His body was emitting an intense bloodthirsty aura. His ferocious aura was soaring to the sky. Good. Very good. All of you are finally here. Omu Feng slowly nodded. The murderous aura in his eyes was getting more and more intense. We didn't catch Ao Xie Yin. So, we took the corpses of the 3 of you back. It's an unexpected harvest. It's a great merit. Chu Yang mischievously smiled. You want to rely on these defeated troops of yours? You want to deal with us? Omu Feng, are you sure that you aren't dreaming? You must know that we killed 22 of your people. And we didn't even suffer a single injury. We'll pay a price to annihilate all of you here. Don't tell me that we can't do it. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that these were defeated troops of theirs. 50 people had been lying in ambush here. And 22 of them had died at the hands of these 5 people. It could be said that less than half of them had been eliminated. Moreover, Gu Duxing had killed an emperor-level expert with top-notch fighting strength. You are merely 5 king-level experts. You may have Sword King and Saber King, but you're nothing more than this. You can't be an emperor-level expert's opponent no matter what. Moreover, Brother Su Wushuang, the emperor-level expert of the Black Devil clan, is here in addition to us brothers. Even if you have wings, you will still die. Omu Feng didn't need to say so much. But Chu Yang's words were an extremely fierce attack on his heart. And it was an extremely heavy blow to his subordinates. It was inevitable that some people would become dejected if he didn't refute them. Go. Kill them. O Jin Feng bellowed. Kill them ruthlessly for this old man. The first person to attack wasn't anyone from the O clan. Instead, it was Chu Yang. Chu Yang would never let go of such an opportunity. It wasn't known when a long sword had appeared in his hand. The sword light spread, and a cold light whizzed out. It suddenly transformed into 10,000 sword lights and rushed forward. One cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. Oh, Jinfeng shouted loudly. He pulled out his sword and rushed forward. But a person's silhouette flashed in front of him. Then, an iron tower-like body came forward to greet him. Then, a black light transformed into a lightning and thunder above his head, and fiercely hacked down. It was Dong Wuxiang. He coldly said, "Old thing. Second Master Dong is the one who sent you on your way. Don't look for someone else. Otherwise, you'll become a confused ghost on the road to hell." A dignified emperor-level expert has become a confused ghost. And you don't even know who killed you. You'll be very disgraced. Oh, Jinfeng furiously shouted. Chu Yang had already turned his body. He took advantage of the momentum of one cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms, and made a turn in the air. Then, an extremely swift and fierce sword light flew out of his hand. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.